the rebels thought they understood their enemy. Neither faction knew that something far more terrifying had just entered their war. The distress beacon had been broadcasting for 3,000 years. It pulsed through the void between galaxies, a frequency no Republic scanner had ever detected, no Imperial probe had ever registered. The signal spoke in a language older than hyperspace itself. A challenge, an invitation, a promise of worthy prey. When the Yautja clan ship, Blood of Chitanu, translated from the dark space between realities, its hunters gazed upon the Star Wars galaxy with mandibles clicking in anticipation. Aboard the massive biomechanical vessel, Hunt Master Yautja stood before the holographic display of this new hunting ground. Thermal imaging revealed billions of heat signatures across thousands of worlds. His three-clawed hand traced the brightest signatures. Massive vessels, armored warriors, creatures of immense power. The translator implant in his biomask struggled to interpret the fragmented transmissions. Empire, rebellion, the Force. Words that meant nothing to a Yautja, but the biosigns told him everything he needed to know. This galaxy was at war. Perfect. Yautja activated the clan gathering pulse. 37 predators materialized from the shadows of the ship's interior. Some bearing the scars of 100 hunts, others young bloods eager to prove themselves worthy of their masks. They represented 5 clans, united by the ancient beacon's promise. Elite hunters, each standing over 7 feet tall, their dreadlock-like appendages swaying as they moved with predatory grace. The Huntmaster's wrist gauntlet projected stellar cartography of nearby systems. His biomask cycled through vision modes, analyzing atmospheric compositions, gravity wells, population densities. He selected a target, a remote world with sparse settlements and confirmed military presence. A testing ground, a place to understand this new prey before the true hunt began. The world was called Dantooine. The rebel outpost designated Echo Station had survived 2 years of Imperial harassment through careful concealment and strategic isolation. Commander Vorin Trell commanded 43 soldiers, 3 technicians, and enough supplies to monitor Imperial fleet movements in the sector for another 6 months. It was boring, essential work. Exactly the kind of posting that kept you alive in a galaxy torn apart by civil war. When the first patrol failed to report in, Vorin assumed equipment failure. When the second patrol's comms cut out mid-transmission with sounds of inhuman clicking and a soldier's scream, he knew they had a problem. "Lock down the perimeter," Vorin ordered, his hand instinctively moving to his blaster. "Get me a satellite sweep of the area, now." The technician's fingers danced across the console, then froze. "Sir, sensors aren't picking up anything. No heat signatures, no movement, no..." His voice died as the lights flickered. Through the plasteel viewport, Vorin saw it. Suspended between 2 comm towers, hanging by what looked like razor wire, were the bodies of his missing patrols. Skinned, the flesh removed with surgical precision, skulls bleached white in Dantooine's sun, spines still attached like some grotesque trophy. Blood pooled on the ground below, still fresh. "Battle stations!" Vorin's shout echoed through the facility. "We're under attack! All personnel to..." The viewport exploded inward. Something invisible crashed through the reinforced glass, moving with impossible speed. Vorin caught only the briefest shimmer, a distortion in the air like heat ripples, before his second-in-command's chest erupted in a spray of superheated plasma. The corpse hit the floor. A hole the size of a fist burned clean through armor and bone. Chaos erupted. Rebels fired wildly at empty air, their blaster bolts illuminating nothing but smoke and shadows. Another soldier died, his head separated from his body by something that moved too fast to see. Then another, lifted off his feet by invisible hands, and slammed against the wall with such force that his spine shattered audibly. Vorin fired his blaster at movement, at Shimmer, at anything. A guttural roar answered him, alien and triumphant, followed by a clicking sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The last thing Commander Vorintrell saw was the brief flicker of a cloaking field deactivating. 7 feet of armored nightmare stood before him, biomask reflecting his terrified face back at him, wrist blades extending with a metallic whisper. The predator's mandibles spread wide, revealing rows of teeth, and it tilted its head in what might have been curiosity. Then darkness. 3 days later, when the Rebel Alliance sent an investigation team to Echo Station, they found the outpost intact. Systems operational. Supplies untouched. Every single person gone, except for the bodies displayed in the courtyard. 46 skinned corpses arranged in a perfect circle, their skulls mounted on pikes, spines dangling like wind chimes. On the main console, written in blood, was a symbol none of them recognized. The mark of the hunt. The Yautja had announced their presence, and across the galaxy, in Imperial command centers and rebel briefing rooms, in Mandalorian enclaves and bounty hunter guilds, beings who thought they understood war were about to learn what it meant to be prey. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The Imperial Star Destroyer, Relentless, had patrolled the Outer Rim for 18 months without incident. Captain Davron Mears ran a tight ship. Discipline, efficiency, and unwavering loyalty to the Empire. His crew of 9,000 operated with mechanical precision, enforcing order across 12 systems. They had crushed pirate operations, intimidated rebellious worlds, and maintained the peace through fear and firepower. None of that mattered when the hunters came aboard. It started in the lower engineering decks. Technician Core 7824 was performing routine maintenance on the hyperdrive cooling systems when his work light flickered. Standard procedure dictated reporting electrical anomalies. But the Empire didn't reward initiative, it rewarded results. He continued his work. Tools clinking against durasteel pipes in the rhythmic pattern drilled into him at the Academy. He didn't hear the shimmer of displaced air behind him. Didn't see the thermal signature of something impossibly hot move through the cold engineering bay. His first indication that something was wrong came when his datapad's screen rippled with interference, displaying static where diagnostics should have been. Core 7824 turned. Saw nothing. The corridor stretched empty in both directions, illuminated by the sterile white lighting of Imperial design. Yet every instinct screamed danger. He reached for his comlink. The 3-pronged plasma bolt caught him center mass. The technician's body collapsed, armor melted, chest cavity cauterized. No blood, no mess, just efficient death. The predator, known as Rathkasi, decloaked for precisely 2 seconds, long enough to mark the kill with his wrist computer, long enough to assess the prey. Weak, unaware, not worthy of a trophy. He left the body where it fell and moved deeper into the ship's infrastructure, his biomask analyzing the vessel's layout through thermal and electromagnetic imaging. 1,600 life signs aboard, most clustered in command sections and crew quarters, but scattered throughout the ship were different signatures. Brighter, more alert, heavily armed. Soldiers, warriors. Those might prove interesting. Rathkasi clicked a hunting call into his clan's communication network. 2 answering clicks returned. His hunting party was in position. The hunt escalated quickly. Stormtroopers found Corp 7824's body 3 hours later during shift rotation. Captain Mears ordered an immediate lockdown and deployed security teams to engineering. Standard protocol for potential sabotage or rebel infiltration. 20 troopers descended the turbo lifts, weapons ready, moving in textbook formation through the corridors. They never saw their killer. The Predator struck from above, clinging to the ceiling with specialized climbing claws. His wrist blades extended with a whisper of metal, and he dropped into their midst like a falling shadow. The first trooper died with his helmet and head inside it, separated from his shoulders. The second managed to turn before plasma fire punched through his chest plate, melting plastoid and flesh in a single superheated instant. Contact. Unknown hostile in section. The transmission cut off as the comlink shattered along with the trooper's spine. Blaster fire filled the corridor, red bolts ricocheting off walls in a desperate storm of energy. The Predator's cloaking field activated mid-combat, rendering him nearly invisible. The stormtroopers fired at Shimmer, at Distortion, hitting nothing but air and each other in their panic. One by one they fell. Some to plasma casters fired from impossible angles, others torn apart by physical strength that exceeded anything in the Imperial database. The last trooper standing backed against a wall, his blaster trembling. He swept the barrel left and right, searching for any sign of the enemy. His helmet's internal sensors showed nothing. Environmental readings: normal. Motion detection: negative. Threat assessment: unknown. The Predator appeared directly in front of him, cloaking field deactivating. 7 feet of armored nightmare. Biomask glowing with predatory satisfaction, mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. The trooper fired point blank. The plasma bolt struck the Predator's armor and deflected harmlessly. The alien alloy far superior to anything Imperial engineers had developed. Rathkasi tilted his head, studying the prey. Brave, but weak. He extended his wrist blades and made it quick. Captain Mears watched the carnage through security holocams from the bridge, his face pale. 20 troopers dead in under 4 minutes. The footage showed shimmer and shadow, brief flickers of something massive moving with inhuman speed, and bodies falling in its wake. Whatever was killing his crew possessed technology beyond Imperial classification. "Seal all sections," Mears commanded, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "Deploy all available security forces, and get me a transmission to..." The lights died. Emergency red illumination activated automatically, bathing the bridge in crimson. Consoles flickered and failed as something interfaced with the ship's systems, something that understood technology but operated by completely alien principles. On the main view screen, static resolved into an image that would haunt Imperial archives for years to come. A symbol rendered in what looked like claw marks, the mark of the Yautja hunt. Below it, transmitted through the ship's internal cameras, were images of the dead. Stormtroopers arranged in the corridors, their helmets removed, their bodies displayed as trophies. And in the background of each image, barely visible in the red emergency lighting, were shapes. Tall, armored, watching. "Sir," the communications officer whispered, her voice breaking protocol with pure terror. "They're not trying to destroy the ship. They're hunting us." Mears understood instantly. This wasn't a military assault. This was sport. His ship, his crew, they were prey. And somewhere in the darkness between decks, invisible killers were stalking through his domain with complete impunity. He reached for the emergency distress beacon, the one reserved for catastrophic scenarios. Rebel superweapons, massive system failures, or encounters with threats beyond standard Imperial response capacity. His hand never reached the button. The viewport behind him spiderwebbed with cracks. Something had been watching from outside the ship, clinging to the hull in the vacuum of space. The Predator's plasmacaster charged with a building whine, visible for just a moment through the transparent steel. The bridge exploded in superheated fury. Across the Relentless, the remaining crew heard the klaxon wail of catastrophic bridge failure. In the engineering bay, in the crew quarters, in the hangar where TIE fighters sat unused, Imperials realized the horrifying truth. Their chain of command was broken, their captain was dead, and something was hunting them through the corridors of their own ship. The Yautja hunting party moved through the Star Destroyer like ghosts, selecting targets, marking kills, collecting trophies. They had encountered countless species across dozens of galaxies, but these Imperials were proving disappointingly easy. Rigid tactics, predictable patterns, no adaptation, no cunning. Rathka C clicked his displeasure to his hunting brothers. This prey was beneath them. They needed better sport. His biomask intercepted a transmission, encrypted, high priority, emanating from a nearby system. The translator worked through the alien language. Vader, Sith Lord. Extreme prejudice authorized. The thermal signature profile attached to the file showed a being whose heat pattern was partially mechanical, partially organic, and radiating power signatures his sensors couldn't fully classify. Now that sounded like worthy prey. Rathka C marked the coordinates and transmitted them to the blood of Sitanu. The clan ship's engines fired, propelling it through hyperspace toward the inner rim, toward legends, toward the one being in the galaxy who might truly test Yautja superiority. Behind them, the Relentless drifted in space, a ghost ship filled with corpses and the echo of alien clicking. When Imperial recovery teams finally boarded days later, they would find the survivors huddled in sealed compartments, traumatized beyond combat effectiveness, speaking in broken sentences about invisible demons and death from nowhere. The official report would classify the incident as rebel terrorist attack with unknown weaponry. But in the dark corners of the Empire, in the intelligence networks and special operations divisions, analysts studied the evidence with growing dread. The trophies, the precision kills, the complete technological superiority. This wasn't terrorism. This was extermination sport. And the galaxy had just become someone else's hunting preserve. Boba Fett had tracked targets across every major system in the galaxy. He'd hunted Jedi survivors through the ruins of their temples, cornered rebel spies in the underworld of Nar Shaddaa, and collected bounties that most hunters wouldn't dare pursue. In 30 years of professional killing, he'd developed instincts that kept him alive when others died, instincts that told him when he was the hunter and when he'd become the hunted. Right now, every instinct screamed the latter. The cantina on Ord Mantell was a known bounty hunter gathering point, neutral territory where professionals conducted business without the interference of Imperial entanglements or rebel sympathies. Fett sat in his usual corner booth, Mandalorian armor reflecting the dim lighting, studying a datapad displaying his current contracts. 3 high-value targets, all rebel operatives, standard work, profitable work. The atmosphere changed when Bosk entered. The Trandoshan bounty hunter moved with uncharacteristic urgency, his reptilian eyes scanning the room before settling on Fett. Bosk approached without the usual territorial posturing that defined their professional rivalry, sliding into the booth across from him. "We need to talk," Bosk hissed, his voice low. "Something's killing hunters." Fett didn't look up from his datapad. Occupational hazard. Not like this. Bosk leaned forward, claws scraping against the metal table. Grak Chawa and his entire crew, gone, found their ship drifting near Ryloth. Every single hunter aboard skinned and mounted like trophies. IG-88B took a contract on Tatooine, hasn't reported in 3 days. Dengar's crew found what was left of him in the Dune Sea, melted circuits, processors torn out, body parts arranged in some kind of pattern. That got Fett's attention. He set down the datapad and looked at Bosk directly. IG-88B was a droid, one of the most dangerous assassin droids in the galaxy. Whatever killed it had to bypass sophisticated combat programming and armor plating specifically designed to withstand heavy weapons fire. "Show me," Fett said. Bosk activated a holoprojector. The image materialized between them, grainy footage from a salvage drone. The droid's distinctive form lay dismembered in the sand, but arranged deliberately. Its head positioned precisely in the center, limbs spread in the 4 cardinal directions, torso open to expose the processing core. And carved into the sand around it, a symbol. Fett had seen similar markings before, years ago. In Mandalorian archives, his father Jango had shown him as a child. Ancient legends about hunters from the stars who'd visited Mandalore centuries past, warriors who'd challenged the clans and vanished back into the void. The stories were considered myths, warnings to young Mandalorians about pride and complacency. But here was that symbol, burned into Tatooine's sand with plasma heat. "There's more," Bosk continued. 4 days ago, the entire Crimson Nova Bounty Hunter chapter disappeared from their base on Ord Mantell. 23 hunters, support staff, weapons caches, gone. No bodies, no evidence. Just empty buildings and this. He shifted the holoprojection. Blood, painted across the walls in deliberate strokes, not scattered from violence, but applied with purpose. The symbol again, larger this time, accompanied by what looked like anatomical diagrams of various species: Trandoshan, human, Rhodian, Wookiee, as if something was studying them, learning their biology, identifying weak points. "The Guild's putting together a response team," Bosk said. "Whoever or whatever this is, they're treating us like prey. That's bad for business. You in?" Fett considered the offer. Bounty hunters operated independently by nature, rarely cooperating except under the most dire circumstances. The fact that Bosk was asking meant the situation was worse than he'd indicated. But Fett hadn't survived this long by jumping into unknown situations without proper intelligence. "No," he said finally. "But I'll investigate independently." Bosk's eyes narrowed. "This isn't the time for your lone wolf Osik, Fett. Whatever this is." The lights flickered. Every hunter in the cantina immediately reached for weapons. The atmosphere shifted from wary professionalism to combat readiness in an instant. Conversations died. Eyes scanned the room. Blasters cleared holsters with practiced speed. Fett's helmet sensors switched to thermal imaging. The cantina was crowded with heat signatures, 37 beings of various species, all showing expected temperature ranges. Nothing unusual. But his motion trackers were registering something else. Distortions in the air near the ceiling, shimmer patterns that moved with purpose. "Everyone out," Fett commanded, standing. "Now." The authority in his voice cut through the tension. Hunters began moving toward exits, maintaining defensive spacing, weapons raised. They'd survived this long by trusting their instincts. And every instinct said danger. The plasma bolt struck the bar, vaporizing bottles and igniting alcohol in a burst of blue flame. The shot came from an impossible angle, from empty air above the crowd. Another bolt followed, punching through a Rhodian hunter's chest before he could scream. Then another, and another. Chaos erupted. Hunters fired at shimmer, at distortion, at anything that moved. The cantina became a killing ground as invisible predators moved among them with surgical precision. Fett saw a Weekay hunter lifted off his feet by nothing. then slammed against the wall hard enough to crack duraplast. Saw a human bounty hunter's weapon torn from her hands by invisible force. Her arm twisted backward until bone snapped. Fett activated his jetpack, rocketing upward and firing his EE-3 carbine blaster rifle in a wide spread. One bolt connected, struck something solid that sparked and hissed. For a fraction of a second, a cloaking field flickered, revealing a massive armored form before it vanished again. But a fraction of a second was enough. Fett had fought enough opponents to understand combat patterns. This wasn't random violence. This was controlled aggression, tactical strikes. The invisible attackers were separating targets, eliminating threats based on perceived danger level, working in coordinated patterns. Professional, efficient, familiar. These were hunters, like him. He fired a wrist rocket toward the ceiling, not aiming for the shimmer, but for the structural supports. The explosion collapsed part of the roof, creating debris and dust clouds that would reveal movement. The tactic worked. 3 distinct shapes became visible as dust settled on their cloaking fields. Humanoid but larger, moving with predatory grace. Fett didn't wait for a clear shot. He activated his flamethrower, sweeping fire across the revealed positions. One shape dodged with impossible agility, but another caught fire. Not the creature itself, but the cloaking device. The field collapsed entirely, revealing the predator in full. 7 feet of biomechanical armor, biomask glowing with alien technology, mandibles spread in what might have been a roar. The predator's wrist computer sparked where fire had damaged circuits, but the creature itself appeared unharmed. It raised its plasma caster, targeting Fett with mechanical precision. They fired simultaneously. Fett's rocket struck the predator's shoulder, detonating against armor that absorbed the blast far better than it should have. The plasma bolt grazed Fett's jetpack, melting circuitry and sending him crashing to the ground. His Mandalorian armor held, Beskar plating designed to withstand lightsabers, proving its worth against alien weaponry. But the impact knocked the wind from his lungs. The predator approached, wrist blades extending. It moved with confidence, mandibles clicking in what Fett recognized as challenge. This wasn't execution. This was combat. The creature wanted to test him, to measure his worth. Fett rolled aside as the blade struck where his head had been, scoring deep gouges in the floor. He drew his blaster and fired point blank at the creature's biomask. The bolt cracked the lens, but didn't penetrate. The predator backhanded him with strength that sent him sliding across the cantina floor, armor screeching against metal. Around them, the battle continued. Other predators moved through the remaining hunters like death incarnate, invisible and unstoppable. Bosk fought with desperate ferocity, his reptilian strength allowing him to grapple with a briefly visible attacker. But even he was outmatched. The Trandoshan's claws scraped uselessly against alien armor before a plasma bolt ended the fight. Fett struggled to his feet, assessing his situation with cold pragmatism. Jetpack damaged, ammunition depleted, opponent technologically superior and physically stronger. Approximately 15 seconds before death, he'd faced worse odds. From his belt, he pulled a thermal detonator and activated it, holding it visible. The predator paused, head tilting. Its biomask cycled through vision modes, analyzing the device. Understanding dawned. Mutual destruction. The predator's mandibles clicked differently now. Not challenge. Recognition. Slowly, deliberately, the predator deactivated its wrist blades. It tapped its biomask, and suddenly Fett's helmet received a transmission, binary code his systems could barely interpret. But the meaning was clear enough. Worthy opponent. Not today. The Predator's cloaking field reactivated. The shimmer moved toward the destroyed ceiling, and with impossible agility, the creature leaped upward and vanished into Ord Mantell's industrial skyline. The other Predators followed, abandoning their hunt as quickly as they'd begun it. Silence filled the cantina. Of the 37 beings who'd been inside, 11 remained alive. Bodies lay scattered in various states of dismemberment. The walls were painted with blood and plasma burns. The symbol of the hunt marked 3 different surfaces. Fett deactivated the thermal detonator and surveyed the carnage. Professional hunters, many of them veterans with decades of experience, slaughtered in under 3 minutes by enemies they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't match. He retrieved his damaged helmet's recording data and transmitted it to encrypted storage. Whatever these creatures were, they operated by a code, a hunter's code, but one that transcended galactic understanding. They'd let him live not out of mercy, but out of respect. They'd recognized him as something more than prey. That recognition both honored and terrified him. Fett left the cantina without speaking to the survivors. Outside, Ord Mantell's artificial lights flickered in the polluted atmosphere. Somewhere up there, invisible predators watched from the shadows, marking targets, planning hunts. The bounty hunter's galaxy had just become infinitely more dangerous. And somewhere in his Mandalorian soul, inherited from his father and the warrior culture that raised him, Boba Fett felt something he rarely acknowledged: curiosity. These hunters had challenged him, tested him, and found him worthy of living. They would meet again. Next time, he'd be ready. Next time, he'd discover if Mandalorian iron was stronger than whatever forged these creatures from the void. The planet-conquered dawn hung in space like a scarred fist, a world shaped by violence, honor, and the endless forging of warriors. Here, in the independent Mandalorian colony far from Imperial control, the clans maintained their ancient traditions. Training grounds echoed with the clash of Beskar against Beskar. Young warriors learned the Rizal Ner, the 6 actions that defined what it meant to be Mandalorian. And in the Great Halls, veterans told stories of legendary battles against Jedi, Sith, and the Republic itself. They were about to add a new chapter to those legends. Chieftain Darma Fett, distant relative of Jango's line, stood on the training platform overlooking 200 Mandalorian warriors assembled in full armor. The dawn light reflected off Beskar plates in shades of green, blue, red, and silver, each color telling a story of allegiance, deed, and personal honor. These were not the soft, compromised Mandalorians who'd bent knee to the Empire. These were the Old Guard, the clans who remembered when their people had conquered star systems and made even the Jedi fear their approach. 3 days ago, Darma announced, his voice amplified across the compound, a transport carrying Clan Vizsla's hunting party disappeared near the Hydian Way. Yesterday we found their ship, empty, every warrior stripped of their armor, their bodies displayed like prey animals. Beskar stolen, weapons taken, the mark of an unknown hunter clan carved into the hull. Murmurs rippled through the assembled warriors. To steal Mandalorian armor was an insult beyond measure. To display their dead as trophies was a declaration of war. Darma activated a holoprojector, showing the crime scene. Even hardened warriors shifted uncomfortably at the images. 12 Mandalorians, elite fighters, killed with precision that suggested overwhelming force or superior tactics. We've received similar reports from 4 other colonies, Darma continued. Mandalorians are being hunted by something that doesn't fear our reputation, doesn't respect our armor, and apparently views us as sport. He paused, letting that sink in. The clans are divided. Some say we should fortify our worlds. Others say we should find these hunters and crush them. I say we give them what they clearly want. He gestured to the holoprojection, which shifted to show a symbol none of them recognized. 3 slash marks forming a triangle. They've left this mark at every kill site. It's a challenge, an invitation. So we'll accept. We'll meet these unknown hunters in honorable combat and show them why Mandalorians are feared across the galaxy. A warrior near the front raised his fist. This is the way. The response echoed across 200 voices. This is the way. The Yautja hunting party, designated as Striker Claw, had observed the Mandalorian colony for 2 days before making their move. From cloaked positions in the surrounding hills, they'd watch these armored warriors train, studying their combat patterns, their weapons, their culture. Huntmaster Dajete found them fascinating. These beings fought with honor codes similar to Yautja traditions. They valued strength, skill, and glory in battle. They wore armor that actually challenged predator weaponry. Finally, worthy prey. Unlike the weak Imperials or the scattered bounty hunters, these Mandalorians presented organized resistance. They moved in tactical formations. They maintained defensive perimeters. They prepared for threats. Dajete clicked his approval to the 15 predators assembled for this hunt. This would be a true test, the kind of battle that earned scars worth displaying. He activated his biomask's communication array and transmitted a signal directly to the Mandalorian compound, a frequency they'd analyzed from captured equipment. The message was simple: coordinates, time, and the symbol of challenge. No words, no explanation needed. Warriors understood warriors across any language barrier. The response came within minutes. A single word in Mandoa, translated through predator systems: accepted. The meeting ground was a barren plateau 15 kilometers from the colony. Flat terrain with minimal cover, chosen by mutual unspoken agreement as a proper battlefield. At dawn, 200 Mandalorian warriors assembled in formation, Beskar armor gleaming, weapons ready. They'd brought their finest: Z6 jetpack missiles, Westar 35 blaster pistols, VAM braces loaded with whipcord, flamethrowers, and dart launchers. Some carried Beskads, traditional Beskar swords designed for close combat. Others wielded crush-gaunt gauntlets capable of shattering bone with bare-handed strikes. Across the plateau, heat shimmer that wasn't heat shimmer moved through the morning air. 15 predators decloaked simultaneously, appearing like materialized nightmares. 7 feet tall. Biomechanical armor adorned with trophies from countless hunts. Skulls of species unknown to this galaxy. Worked metal from different worlds, crystalline structures that caught the light in alien patterns. Their biomasks gleamed with targeting systems that tracked every Mandalorian simultaneously. Plasma casters charged with building wines. Wrist blades extended with mechanical precision. Dajete stepped forward, removed his biomask in a gesture of respect, and roared. His mandibles spread wide, revealing rows of teeth, his dreadlock-like appendages swaying. The challenge was unmistakable in any language. Come and die with honor. Dharma Fett removed his helmet in response, meeting the alien's eyes. "We don't know who you are or where you came from," he said in Mandoa, knowing the creatures probably couldn't understand. "But you've killed our people, stolen our armor. Today, you learn what happens when you hunt Mandalorians." He replaced his helmet, drew his blaster, and fired. The plateau erupted into warfare. Mandalorians activated jetpacks, rocketing into the air and firing from multiple angles. Their tactics were flawless. suppressing fire, flanking maneuvers, coordinated strikes designed to overwhelm any enemy. Blaster bolts filled the air in a storm of superheated energy. The Predators scattered with inhuman agility, their cloaking devices activating mid-movement. But the Mandalorians had prepared for invisibility. They fired wide-pattern flamethrower blasts that illuminated cloaking fields, revealing shimmer patterns. Where shimmer appeared, concentrated fire followed. One Predator took multiple direct hits and staggered. Its armor held, but the impact disrupted its cloaking. Mandalorians descended on it like a pack, firing from 3 directions simultaneously. The Predator's plasma caster swiveled, firing bolts that punched through one warrior's armor, Beskar cracking under sustained plasma heat, but the others pressed the attack. A Beskar strike carved through the Predator's shoulder armor, drawing fluorescent green blood. The wounded Predator roared and activated its self-destruct sequence. The Mandalorians recognized the rising whine of overloading power cores and jetpacked away frantically. The explosion carved a crater 30 feet wide, consuming the Predator and 3 Mandalorians who couldn't escape in time. Across the battlefield, individual duels erupted as Predators and Mandalorians met in close combat. One Predator, bearing the scars of countless hunts, engaged 5 warriors simultaneously. Its wrist blades deflected Beskar strikes, alien metal meeting Mandalorian iron in showers of sparks. The Predator's strength was overwhelming. It grabbed one warrior by the helmet and threw him 50 feet. But the Mandalorians adapted, using whipcord to tangle the Predator's limbs, flamethrowers to force it into defensive positions. A crushing blow from a Crush-Gaunt-equipped warrior finally connected with the Predator's biomask, shattering the lens and exposing its face. The creature hissed, mandibles clicking in pain and fury, but it didn't retreat. It activated its plasma caster at point-blank range, sacrificing its own armor integrity to fire through the Mandalorian's defenses. Both combatants fell, locked in mutual death. Yautja fought like the apex predator he was. His wrist blades carved through Mandalorian armor where Beskar plates met at joints, targeting weak points with surgical precision. His plasma caster never missed, each shot calculated to overcome defensive positioning. When Mandalorians tried to surround him, he used his superior strength to break through their formation, throwing warriors aside like children. But these Mandalorians were veterans of the Clone Wars, survivors of conflicts that had forged them in fire. They adapted to his patterns, learned his tactics, and pressed him relentlessly. A jetpack missile struck his shoulder, detonating against armor that cracked under the impact. A flamethrower blast caught his cloaking device, melting circuits and forcing him to fight visible. Dharma Fett engaged him directly, Beskar meeting wrist blades in a clash that rang across the plateau. They fought with mutual respect, two warriors from different species, different galaxies, united by the same fundamental drive to test themselves against worthy opponents. "You're strong," Dharma grunted, parrying a strike that would have decapitated him. "But you're alone. We are Mandalorian. We are clan." On cue, 12 warriors opened fire simultaneously from surrounding positions. The coordinated barrage overwhelmed even Yautja's armor. He staggered, fluorescent blood leaking from multiple wounds, his biomask cracked and sparking. For a moment, the Huntmaster considered activating his self-destruct, dying in glory as a warrior should. But his biomask's sensors showed him something that changed his calculus. Of the 15 predators, only 5 remained combat effective. Of the 200 Mandalorians, over 100 still fought. The numbers were clear. This battle was lost. But the war, the hunt, was far from over. Yautja activated his emergency recall beacon. The remaining predators disengaged immediately, cloaking and retreating with tactical precision. Mandalorians pursued, firing at shimmer patterns, but the predators moved through terrain with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, they'd vanished into the hills, leaving only the aftermath of unprecedented battle. Dharma surveyed the plateau. 63 Mandalorians dead or critically wounded. 4 predators confirmed dead, their bodies being examined by medics with a mixture of horror and fascination. Craters marked where self-destructs had detonated. The ground was scorched with plasma burns and blaster marks. Blood, red human and fluorescent green alien, stained the ancient stone. They retreated, a warrior said, disbelief in his voice. We won. No, Dharma corrected, looking at the hills where the hunters had vanished. We survived. There's a difference. He bent and picked up a piece of predator armor, studying the unknown alloy, the biomechanical integration, the technology decades or centuries beyond anything the galaxy possessed. They tested us, he continued, and we tested them. They found us worthy of respect. Next time they come, and they will come, they'll bring more warriors, better tactics. They'll learn from this battle just as we will. He activated his comms system, transmitting to all Mandalorian colonies across the sector. To all clans, we have encountered a new enemy. Hunters from beyond our understanding. They are strong, technologically superior, and they value honor in combat. Today we earned their respect. Tomorrow we must be ready to earn their fear. The message spread through Mandalorian space like wildfire. Clans began fortifying positions, sharing tactical data, preparing for escalation. The warrior culture that had challenged the Jedi Order and survived the Clone Wars now faced something entirely new. And in the hills beyond the plateau, Yautja watched the Mandalorians recover their dead, tend their wounded, and prepare their defenses. His biomask recorded everything: their tactics, their weaknesses, their strengths. These warriors had earned the right to live this day. They'd proven themselves in honorable combat. But the hunt was eternal. The Yautja had faced countless warrior species across countless galaxies. Some became allies. Some became extinct. All became legends in the endless cycle of predator and prey. Yautja clicked a message to the blood of Satanu. Mark this world. Mark these warriors. Mark this day. The Mandalorians were now part of the Great Hunt. And in Yautja culture, that was the highest honor any species could receive. The honor of being worthy prey. The Imperial Palace on Coruscant had stood for 2 decades as a monument to absolute power. Emperor Palpatine ruled from its depths, manipulating the galaxy through the dark side of the Force and the iron fist of his military. But even the Emperor had not anticipated the reports flooding into his throne room. Reports of an unprecedented threat that defied conventional Imperial response. Grand Moff Tarkin stood before the Emperor's holographic projection, his gaunt face illuminated by the flickering blue light. Behind him, a dozen high-ranking officers and intelligence analysts waited with military discipline, though their unease was palpable. "Explain," the Emperor commanded, his voice a rasp that carried the weight of absolute authority. Tarkin activated the central holoprojector. Images materialized, the gutted relentless. The slaughtered bounty hunters on Ord Mantell, the Mandalorian battlefield on Conquered Dawn. In the past 2 weeks, we've suffered losses across 17 systems. Military casualties exceed 4,000. The attackers use technology we cannot classify, tactics we cannot predict, and demonstrate capabilities that surpass our current understanding. Pirates? Rebels? The Emperor's tone suggested he already knew the answer. Neither, my lord. The attackers operate with precision that suggests military training, but their objectives are inconsistent with rebel strategy. They don't sabotage, they don't liberate, they don't inspire. They kill selectively, take trophies, and vanish. Analysis suggests they're hunting for sport. Another officer stepped forward, activating supplementary data. We've recovered biological samples from 3 engagement sites. The DNA is unlike anything in our xenobiological database. Amino acid structures we've never encountered. Protein configurations that shouldn't be possible under known laws of biochemistry. Whatever these creatures are, they're not from this galaxy. The Emperor remained silent, his yellow eyes studying the data with the intensity of a predator recognizing another apex hunter. You believe they're extragalactic? We don't know what to believe, my lord, Tarkin admitted. But they represent a threat to Imperial order. More concerningly, they seem particularly interested in hunting our most dangerous individuals. The Relentless's captain was executed specifically. Bounty hunters with exceptional combat records were prioritized targets. And the Mandalorians, warriors with centuries of combat tradition, fought them to a standstill, but at devastating cost. The Emperor's thin lips curved into something that might have been a smile. They hunt the strong. How inefficient. He leaned forward, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Send Lord Vader. If these hunters seek worthy prey, let them discover what it means to hunt a Sith Lord. In the depths of the Imperial Palace, Darth Vader received his orders with characteristic silence. The Dark Lord stood in his meditation chamber, surrounded by the hum of life support systems that kept his broken body functional. Through the Force, he could sense his master's anticipation. Palpatine was testing him, as always, measuring his worth against an unknown variable. Vader had hunted Jedi survivors across the galaxy, exterminating the remnants of an order that had once been his family. He'd crushed rebel cells, intimidated Imperial officers, and served as the Emperor's most feared enforcer. Now he was being sent against something that Imperial intelligence couldn't classify. Good. He welcomed the challenge. His meditation was interrupted by a presence, faint but unmistakable through the Force. Something was watching him. Vader's artificial hand moved to his lightsaber, thumb hovering over the activation switch. He extended his Force awareness throughout the chamber, searching for the disturbance. There, on the ceiling, a shimmer in the air, barely perceptible. But the Force revealed what technology concealed. A living being, alien and powerful. Its bioelectric field unlike anything Vader had encountered in decades of hunting Force sensitives. The predator known as Scar Doc had infiltrated the Imperial Palace through methods that would have impressed even the most skilled rebel operatives. His cloaking technology fooled cameras and sensors. His climbing claws allowed him to traverse surfaces Imperial guards never thought to monitor. And his patience, honed through hundreds of hunts across dozens of worlds, let him wait motionless for hours while studying his ultimate prey, Darth Vader. The thermal signature was partially mechanical, partially organic, but the biomask's sensors detected something else. An energy field surrounding the being that defied classification. It wasn't heat. It wasn't electromagnetic. It was something fundamentally different. Something that made Scar Doc's instincts scream danger even as his mandibles clicked with anticipation. This was the trophy that would elevate him to elite status among his clan. Vader spoke without turning. I can feel you watching me. Your technology hides you from machines, but not from the Force. He ignited his lightsaber, the crimson blade casting blood-red shadows across the chamber. Show yourself, or die like a coward. Skardock had encountered countless species who claimed supernatural abilities: telepaths, energy manipulators, genetic aberrations. All had fallen to superior Yautja tactics. This would be no different. He deactivated his cloaking field and dropped from the ceiling, landing in a crouch that displayed perfect predatory balance. 7.5 feet of biomechanical perfection faced 6.5 feet of dark side mastery. The Predator's biomask analyzed Vader's armor, identifying weak points, calculating strike angles. His plasma caster targeted the mechanical breathing apparatus, disable the life support, end the threat. His wrist computer recorded everything for the clan archives, the first documented hunt of a Sith Lord. Vader studied his opponent with equal intensity. Through the Force, he sensed the creature's confidence, its predatory focus, its utter certainty in its own superiority. He'd faced that arrogance before in Jedi Masters who thought themselves untouchable. They'd all learned the same lesson. "You hunt me?" Vader's voice carried dark amusement. "You have no idea what you face." Skardock fired his plasma caster. The superheated bolt crossed the chamber in a fraction of a second. A shot that had killed dozens of targets, a perfect strike at the identified weakness. Vader raised his hand. The plasma bolt stopped mid-flight, suspended in empty air 3 feet from his chest. The Force held it frozen, dissipating its energy harmlessly into the surrounding space. Vader clenched his fist, and the bolt collapsed into nothing. Skardock's mandibles clicked in confusion. His biomask replayed the footage, analyzing what had occurred, finding no logical explanation. The energy hadn't struck a shield, it had simply stopped. Violated laws of physics his species had understood for millennia. He fired again, 3 bolts in rapid succession from different angles. Vader stopped all 3 with casual gestures, then extended his arm toward the Predator. The Force gripped Skardock with invisible strength, lifting him off the ground. The Predator struggled, his considerable muscles straining against the telekinetic hold. But it was like fighting gravity itself. His biomask's readings spiked into incomprehensible ranges. This Force was everywhere and nowhere, permeating everything, immune to his technology. "Your weapons are irrelevant," Vader said, walking slowly toward the suspended Predator. "Your armor is meaningless. Your strength is insignificant. You hunt prey. I am Predator Absolute." Vader clenched his fist, and the Force constricted around Skardock's throat. The Predator's biomask cracked under the pressure. He activated his wrist blades in desperation, trying to cut the invisible bonds. But the energy field held him as securely as Durasteel chains. For the first time in his hunting career, Skardock felt something he'd inflicted on countless prey: terror. His hand moved to his self-destruct device, the honorable death rather than capture. But Vader sensed the intention through the Force and crushed the Predator's wrist computer with a thought. Sparks flew as circuits shattered, the self-destruct sequence aborting before activation. "No," Vader said. "You will not escape so easily. You wanted to hunt a Sith? Now you'll learn what that means." He slammed the Predator against the wall with bone-cracking force, then dragged him across the chamber through telekinetic power alone. Skardock's armor scraped against Durasteel, leaving fluorescent green blood in its wake. His training, his technology, his lifelong preparation, all useless against this impossible power. Vader held the Predator suspended before him, studying the alien biology with dark curiosity. "You're not the first alien species to think themselves superior. You won't be the last." but you will serve a purpose. He activated his comlink. Deploy the Inquisitors. I want 3 hunter teams captured alive. Study their technology. Learn their weaknesses. Then we'll show this species what the Empire does to those who threaten our order. Skardok's biomask translated fragments of the transmission. Understanding dawning through pain and oxygen deprivation. This being wasn't just powerful. It represented an entire civilization capable of systematic response. The Yautja had miscalculated catastrophically. This wasn't a galaxy of scattered prey. This was an empire built on domination. Vader released the Force choke, letting the Predator collapse to the floor. Run back to your clan ship. Tell them what you've seen. Tell them the Empire is aware of their presence. And we will hunt them with the same systematic efficiency we use on rebels and Jedi survivors. Then decide. Leave this galaxy immediately, or face extinction. Skardok struggled to his feet, every movement radiating pain. His pride demanded he continue the fight, but survival instinct, honed through evolution, overrode honor. He activated his damaged cloaking device, which flickered but held, and retreated toward the chamber's exit. Behind him, Vader's breathing apparatus filled the silence with mechanical rhythm, a sound that would haunt Yautja legends for generations. As Skardok fled through the Imperial Palace's ventilation systems, his biomask transmitted an emergency clan-wide alert. Abort all hunts near Imperial core worlds. Avoid the being designated Vader at all costs. Reassess threat evaluation of this galaxy from hunting ground to extreme danger zone. The message reached the blood of Satanu within minutes. Huntmaster Dajete studied the transmitted footage of Vader stopping plasma bolts with gesture alone, lifting a fully armored Yautja warrior through invisible force. His mandibles clicked slowly, processing implications that challenged everything he understood about combat dynamics. They'd hunted in hundreds of galaxies, faced thousands of species. But this force, this energy that permeated living beings and could be manipulated by trained individuals, was unprecedented. The Yautja prided themselves on technological and physical superiority. How did you fight something that transcended both? The answer came from the clan's eldest hunter, a scarred veteran whose trophies included skulls from 50 different worlds. He activated ancient clan records, pulling up files that dated back thousands of years. There, in historical archives, was mention of a previous hunt in this galaxy. A failed hunt, one that cost the lives of 3 entire clans. The records spoke of warriors who wielded blades of light and commanded the living force. Warriors called Jedi and Sith. The ancient Yautja who'd faced them had learned a crucial lesson. Some prey evolved beyond physical confrontation. Those hunters had withdrawn, marking the galaxy as forbidden hunting ground, until the Force wielders went extinct or technology advanced enough to counter their abilities. Dajete's mandibles clicked with understanding and frustration. His clan had arrived at this galaxy not knowing its history, drawn by an ancient beacon without context. They'd hunted successfully because their initial prey, Imperials, bounty hunters, even Mandalorians, were purely physical threats. But now they'd encountered what their ancestors had warned against. The Force was the ultimate hunter's advantage, and unless the Yautja could adapt, they would become the prey. But Yautja didn't retreat easily. Dajete studied the tactical data with predatory focus. This Vader was powerful, but he was singular. The galaxy was vast, and the Predators had already identified multiple Force-sensitive beings through bioscan analysis. Weaker than Vader, scattered across outer rim systems, some in hiding, some fighting the Empire. Perhaps they couldn't hunt Vader directly, but they could hunt those he hunted. The Jedi survivors, if any remained, would be the ultimate test. Prey that could sense the predators coming, that wielded energy weapons similar to Yautja plasma technology, that fought with philosophy instead of mere instinct. Darth Vader transmitted new hunting parameters to all active teams. Avoid core Imperial worlds, target Force sensitives of moderate power, study this lightsaber technology. The Great Hunt would continue, but with revised tactics, increased caution, and the understanding that this galaxy was far more dangerous than anticipated. Aboard his flagship, Emperor Palpatine watched the holographic recording of Vader's encounter with the Predator. His yellow eyes gleamed with dark satisfaction. Excellent. These hunters will serve to test our Inquisitors, reveal weaknesses in our security, and perhaps even lead us to rebel cells we haven't identified. Let them hunt. We'll study them, capture them, and when we've learned everything they have to teach. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The Empire had perfected the art of turning threats into weapons. These predators would be no different. The hunt had entered a new phase, and both sides were adapting. The outer rim world of Lothal had become a focal point of rebel activity despite Imperial occupation. Phoenix Squadron operated from hidden bases in the wilderness, conducting raids against supply convoys and recruitment centers. Among their number was Kanan Jarrus, one of the few surviving Jedi from Order 66, a master trying to train his Padawan Ezra Bridger while staying one step ahead of Imperial hunters. Kanan had survived 20 years by trusting the Force and maintaining constant vigilance. Tonight, as he meditated in the crew quarters of the Ghost, the Force whispered warnings that set every nerve on edge. Something was coming. Something the Force struggled to define, neither dark side nor light, neither living nor machine, but something in between. A presence that moved through the living Force like a predator moving through tall grass, disturbing everything it passed but remaining fundamentally separate from the energy field that connected all life. Kanan? Hera Syndulla's voice came through the comm. We've got a situation. Imperial patrol just disappeared 3 clicks from our position. No distress call, no weapons fire, just gone. Kanan opened his eyes, hand moving instinctively to his lightsaber. I felt it. Something's hunting in the area. Tell everyone to stay aboard the ship and power down all non-essential systems. What kind of something are we talking about? I don't know. And that's what worries me. The Predator designated as Thwei Kahal had tracked the Force sensitive to this ship through methods that combined technology with instinct. His biomask had detected the anomalous energy signature from 3 kilometers away, a thermal pattern surrounded by something that his sensors couldn't fully analyze. Not heat, not electricity, but energy that seemed to flow from and through the being in patterns that suggested conscious control. A Force user, like the ones in the ancient clan archives. Finally, prey worthy of his bloodline. Thwaikal had studied the Imperial patrol before killing them, testing his weapons against their armor, learning their response patterns, confirming that his plasma caster could penetrate their defenses. Weak prey, hardly worth the effort, but useful for calibration. Now he approached the real target, the being whose energy signature marked them as something beyond normal prey. He moved across the Lothal grasslands with perfect silence, his cloaking device rendering him invisible in the darkness. The ship ahead was old, modified extensively, its thermal signature showing 6 distinct life forms. But only one emanated that strange energy. That was his target. The others were incidental. Inside the Ghost, Ezra Bridger felt the disturbance in the Force before anyone else. Master, something's wrong. The Force feels twisted. like there's a hole moving toward us. Kanan had trained himself to trust his Padawan's instincts. Everyone, arm up. We have an unknown hostile approaching. Sabine, get the ship ready for immediate takeoff. Zeb, guard the entry ramp. Chopper, run a full sensor sweep. The astromech droid beeped frantically, its sensors detecting nothing but empty grassland. Yet the atmospheric readings showed minute distortions, air displacement patterns that suggested movement where no movement should exist. Cloaking technology, Kanan realized. Someone's using stealth tech to approach us. But it's more advanced than anything Imperial. I can feel them in the Force, but barely. Like they're somehow separate from the living energy that connects everything. Thwaikal reached the ship's perimeter and paused, studying his prey through multiple vision modes. The Force user stood at the entry ramp, weapon holstered but hand ready. Beside him, a younger being with similar energy patterns. An apprentice, perhaps. A purple-skinned warrior with a bow rifle. A Twi'lek female near the cockpit. And a droid that might prove problematic with its electronic sensors. Standard hunting protocol demanded he eliminate the non-targets first, isolating his primary prey. But these beings showed tactical positioning and preparation. They knew he was here, somehow. That made them more dangerous than typical prey. It also made them more interesting. Thwaikal activated his plasma caster and fired at the droid. The superheated bolt crossed 50 meters in an instant, striking Chopper dead center. The droid exploded in a shower of sparks and metal fragments, its electronic screech cut short. "Chopper!" Ezra screamed. "Focus!" Kanan ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade blazing to life. Through the Force, he tracked the shooter's position. There, 40 meters out, a presence that felt predatory and alien. He extended his free hand and unleashed a force push toward that location. Thwaikal was unprepared for invisible energy slamming into him like a physical blow. His cloaking field flickered as he was thrown backward, armor scraping against rock. His biomask analyzed what had occurred and found no logical explanation. No projectile, no explosive, just directed force originating from the target's gesture. The archives were correct. These Force users commanded power beyond technology. He rolled aside as another blue blade ignited. The apprentice joining the master, both wielding weapons that resembled Yautja plasma technology, but contained in blade form. Fascinating. Thwaikal recalibrated his approach. If these beings could manipulate energy through will alone, standard hunting tactics required modification. He activated his wrist blades and charged directly at them, abandoning stealth for aggressive assault. Speed and strength had never failed him. Even Force users had physical bodies that could be pierced, torn, broken. Kanan met the charge with Jedi reflexes honed through years of survival. His lightsaber intercepted wrist blades that became visible only at the moment of contact. Alien metal that didn't immediately melt under the plasma blade's heat. Whoever built this technology understood energy weapons. The Predator's strength was overwhelming. The initial clash sent Kanan sliding backward, boots carving furrows in the dirt. "Ezra, fall back," Kanan commanded, deflecting another strike that would have decapitated him. "This isn't a fight you're ready for." But Ezra had inherited his master's stubbornness. He attacked from the side, lightsaber aimed at what sensors couldn't see but the Force revealed. His blade struck armor that absorbed the hit better than Stormtrooper plastoid, scoring the surface but not penetrating. The Predator backhanded him with casual strength, sending the teenager flying 15 feet. Zeb opened fire with his bow rifle, energy bolts tracking the shimmer in the air. Some shots connected, forcing the Predator to dodge. Others passed through empty space where the creature had been a second earlier. The Lasat's combat experience showed. He anticipated movement, fired at where the target would be rather than where it was. One bolt struck Thwaikal's shoulder, burning through armor and drawing fluorescent green blood. The predator roared, mandibles spreading wide, and fired his plasma caster at the purple warrior. Zeb dove aside as the bolt vaporized the spot where he'd been standing. Hera emerged from the cockpit with twin blasters, adding her fire to the chaos. "Kanan, we need to leave, now. Can't outrun what we can't see." Kanan Force pushed again, this time with greater focus. The invisible attacker stumbled, and in that moment of vulnerability, Kanan pressed the attack. His lightsaber carved through the air and formed the 3 defensive patterns, each strike forcing the predator to parry rather than attack. But Thwaikal was adapting. His biomask analyzed the lightsaber's energy signature, tracking its movement patterns, predicting strike angles. These weapons moved in structured forms, disciplined, trained, predictable to sufficient observation. He began countering not where the blade was, but where it would be. His wrist blades caught Kanan's lightsaber mid-strike. Alien metal holding against plasma energy through sheer material superiority. With his other hand, he grabbed Kanan's wrist and squeezed. Bone creaked under pressure that exceeded human tolerances. Kanan gasped in pain, but didn't drop his weapon. Instead, he called on the Force with desperate intensity, flooding his body with enhanced strength. He broke the predator's grip through telekinetic force and drove his knee into the creature's midsection. The armor absorbed most of the impact, but it was enough to create separation. "This is your last chance to leave," Kanan shouted at the empty air where he sensed the presence. "We don't want to kill you, but we will defend ourselves." Thwaikal's translator worked through the language, understanding the words, if not the mercy they implied. In Yautja culture, combat ended in death or honor. There was no middle ground. He responded by activating his targeting laser, painting Kanan's chest with 3 red dots. Ezra saw the laser and reacted with pure instinct. He force-pulled his master aside just as the plasma caster fired. The bolt missed Kanan by inches, striking the ghost's hull and burning a hole through the outer plating. "He's targeting the ship," Hera realized. "If he punches through to the fuel cells..." She didn't finish because Thwaikal fired again, this time at the starboard engine. The blast damaged the stabilizer array, causing the ghost to list slightly. Another shot like that, and they'd be grounded. Kanan made a decision that went against every Jedi instinct for mercy. Through the Force, he reached out to the rocks scattered across Lothal's grassland, hundreds of pounds of stone, and hurled them at the predator's location with telekinetic force. The barrage came from multiple angles, moving faster than any natural throw. Thwaikal's biomask tracked the incoming projectiles, but there were too many. Rocks slammed into his armor from all sides, cracking his biomask's lens, denting chest plating, breaking his left arm's wrist computer. He staggered under the assault, his cloaking field collapsing entirely from the damage. For the first time, the rebels saw their attacker fully revealed. 7 feet of biomechanical nightmare stood before them, armor covered in trophies and scars, mandibles clicking rapidly in what might have been pain or fury. Fluorescent green blood leaked from multiple wounds. But despite the damage, the creature radiated deadly intent. Its remaining plasma caster charged for another shot. "Sabine," Kanan shouted, "paint bomb now." The Mandalorian artist had prepared for exactly this scenario. She activated a custom explosive that burst in a cloud of bright orange paint, coating everything in a 20-foot radius, including the now visible predator. The paint adhered to the armor's surface, making cloaking impossible. Thwaikal realized his tactical position had collapsed. Cloaking disabled, wrist computer damaged, multiple opponents with capabilities he'd underestimated. Against typical prey, he would press the attack until victory or death. But the clan codes allowed for strategic retreat when hunting conditions proved unfavorable. These Force users had earned respect through combat. They would survive this day. He activated his remaining wrist device, not a self-destruct, but an emergency recall beacon. Then he fired his plasma caster at the ground between him and the rebels, creating a wall of flame and smoke. When the smoke cleared seconds later, he was gone, moving through Lothal's wilderness with paint-covered armor, but undiminished determination. Kanan deactivated his lightsaber, breathing hard. "Everyone all right?" "Chopper's scrap metal," Zeb growled. "Ship's damaged, and we just fought something that hunts Force users for sport. I'm thinking all right is relative." Ezra examined the green blood splattered on rocks where the creature had stood. "Master, what was that thing? I've never felt anything like it in the Force. It was there, but not there, like a shadow that could think." "I don't know," Kanan admitted. "But it knew what we were. It targeted us specifically, and if there's one of these hunters, there might be more." He activated his encrypted comm, connecting to the larger rebel network. "This is Kanan Jarrus, to all Phoenix Squadron cells. Be advised, there's a new threat operating in the Outer Rim. Unknown hostiles with advanced cloaking technology and plasma weapons. They're hunting Force sensitives. If you encounter anything matching this description, retreat immediately and report to command." Across Lothal's grasslands, Thwaikal transmitted his combat footage to the blood of Setanu. The clan ship's analysts studied the recordings with intense interest. Force users fighting with energy blades, manipulating matter through thought alone, sensing predators despite cloaking technology. The ancient archives had not exaggerated their capabilities. But they also showed weaknesses. The Force users could be overwhelmed by speed and strength. Their energy blades, while formidable, followed predictable patterns. And most importantly, they were protective of their apprentices and their vessels. Attachment that created tactical vulnerabilities. Hunt Master Dajete watched the footage and clicked a new directive to his hunting parties. Force users were now priority alpha targets, but only for elite hunters with specific training. Young bloods were forbidden from engaging them alone. Standard tactics required modification, use of long-range plasma weapons, targeting of their vehicles and support structures, exploitation of their protective instincts. The Jedi and their students would provide the ultimate test. And when the Yautja perfected tactics to hunt Force users, they would prove definitively which species deserved the title of apex predator. The hunt continued, but both sides now understood. This was war, not sport. And in war, evolution determined survival. The Rebel High Command had convened an emergency session aboard the converted frigate Redemption, hidden deep in the Agamar asteroid field. Mon Mothma, leader of the Alliance, studied the holographic reports with growing concern. Admiral Akbar stood beside her, his amphibious features unreadable but his body language tense. Around the command table, representatives from dozens of rebel cells waited for direction. 17 separate incidents in 3 weeks, Mon Mothma said, her voice calm despite the grim statistics. Imperial convoys attacked. Bounty hunter guilds decimated, Mandalorian colonies engaged in open warfare. And now, our own operatives reporting encounters with invisible hunters wielding technology we can't classify. She gestured to the holographic display. This is not the Empire's doing. This is something else entirely. They're called predators. Boba Fett's voice cut through the chamber. The bounty hunter stepped from the shadows where he'd been observing, his Mandalorian armor reflecting the dim light. His presence in Rebel Command was unprecedented, a testament to how serious the situation had become. My people have legends about them, hunters from beyond the stars who visited Mandalore centuries ago. We thought they were myths. We were wrong. You have information? Admiral Akbar's gravelly voice carried skepticism. And you bring it to the rebellion? Forgive me if I question your motives, bounty hunter. My motives are survival, Fett replied bluntly. These predators don't care about the Empire or the rebellion. They hunt based on challenge, not politics. Right now they're scattered, testing various prey. But they're learning, adapting. Eventually, they'll organize into larger hunting parties, and when that happens, neither your rebellion nor the Empire will be able to stop them. He activated a data chip he'd obtained from Mandalorian intelligence networks. The hologram shifted, showing recovered footage from multiple engagement sites, blurred images of 7-foot creatures with biomechanical armor, plasma weapons that vaporized targets, and trophies that made even hardened rebel soldiers look away. They take skulls, Fett continued. Spines, armor, weapons. Anything that proves they defeated a worthy opponent. They've taken stormtrooper helmets, bounty hunter gear, and Beskar from my people. Each trophy makes them more dangerous because they study what they collect. They're learning our tactics, our technology, our weaknesses. Mon Mothma absorbed this information with the strategic mind that had built the rebellion from scattered resistance cells into a cohesive military force. Then we have a choice. We can fight them, hide from them, or... She paused, considering an option that went against every instinct. We can try to communicate with them. Communication? A rebel officer scoffed. They've killed thousands of sentients across multiple systems. What makes you think they'll negotiate? Because they operate by a code, Fett said. When they fought the Mandalorians, they respected honorable combat. When I held a thermal detonator in a standoff, they let me live rather than die in mutual destruction. They're not mindless killers. They're hunters following rules we don't understand. If we can understand those rules, maybe we can use them. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The command center's tactical display lit up with proximity warnings. 6 unknown signatures had appeared at the edge of the asteroid field. Not Imperial Star Destroyers, not rebel vessels, but something else entirely. Ships with organic-looking hull plating, energy signatures that didn't match any known propulsion system. It's them, Fett said quietly. The Predators found your hidden base, and they brought a hunting party. On the bridge of the blood of Satanu, Hunt Master Dajete studied the asteroid field where rebel thermal signatures clustered around 3 capital ships. His biomask highlighted multiple targets. Military vessels, defended positions, concentrated prey. But more importantly, his sensors detected 7 distinct Force-sensitive signatures among the rebels. Not as powerful as the Sith Lord Vader, but significant enough to warrant attention. This would be the largest coordinated hunt since arriving in this galaxy. 15 Yautja warriors prepared in the launch bay, checking plasma casters, sharpening wrist blades, activating cloaking fields. Among them were veterans of the Mandalorian engagement, hunters who'd learned from their mistakes and adapted their tactics. Dajete transmitted the hunting plan through clan channels. Objective: test the rebels' defensive capabilities, eliminate high-value targets, collect trophies that would prove Yautja superiority. Secondary objective: capture technology samples and force-sensitive beings for study. Tertiary objective: determine if these rebels were worthy of becoming honored adversaries or merely prey to be exterminated. The Predator drop ships launched silently, their cloaking fields rendering them invisible to standard sensors as they navigated through the asteroid field. Aboard the Redemption, chaos erupted as sensor operators tried to track the approaching threats. "They're phasing in and out of our detection range. I can't get a targeting lock." Admiral Akbar took command with practiced efficiency. All fighters launch immediately. Defensive pattern Delta 7. Capital ships prepare for boarding actions, seal all non-essential sections, and arm all personnel. "They won't board," Fett interrupted. "They'll drop onto the hull and cut their way inside. They hunt in small teams, targeting specific individuals. Your standard defensive patterns won't work." "Then what do you suggest, Bounty Hunter?" "Use their tactics against them. Scatter your force sensitives throughout the ship. Make them hunt through your entire crew to find their targets. Slow them down. And when they're spread out..." Fett checked his weapon systems. "You concentrate force and eliminate them one at a time." Mon Mothma made the decision that defined her leadership. "Do it. Admiral, implement the Bounty Hunter's strategy. All Jedi and Force-sensitive personnel disperse throughout the fleet. Standard troops prepare for close-quarters combat with opponents you can't see. Use thermal scanners, paint grenades, anything that reveals cloaking technology." The first Predator dropship attached to the Redemption's hull with magnetic clamps. Plasma cutters began carving through the outer plating, opening a breach large enough for armored warriors to enter. Inside, rebel soldiers waited in defensive positions, weapons trained on the glowing cut marks. The breach opened. Nothing visible entered. Then soldiers began dying. Plasma bolts from nowhere, wrist blades appearing from empty air to tear through armor. Rebel troops fired wildly, their blaster bolts illuminating corridors, but hitting only shadows and shimmer. "Thermal scanners," a sergeant shouted, activating her helmet's heat vision mode. There, 3 distinct heat signatures moving through the corridor with inhuman speed. "Target the heat patterns. Fire." Concentrated blaster fire struck one Predator's cloaking field, disrupting the device and revealing the warrior fully. The rebels intensified their assault, understanding that numbers could overcome technological superiority. The Predator's armor absorbed dozens of hits before finally failing, fluorescent green blood spraying as the creature fell. But the victory cost 8 rebel soldiers, and 2 more Predators still hunted through the ship. On another deck, a young Force-sensitive named K.L. Varn felt the disturbance approaching. He'd survived Order 66 by hiding his abilities, joining the rebellion as a pilot rather than revealing his Jedi training. Now he stood in an empty corridor, lightsaber hidden but ready, trusting the Force to guide him. The Predator, designated as Yautja, stalked the Force user with patient precision. He'd learned from previous engagements, these beings could sense his presence despite cloaking, could deflect plasma bolts with their energy blades, could manipulate matter through will alone. Standard hunting tactics required adaptation. He activated his combistic, a telescoping spear weapon designed for combat against particularly dangerous prey. The weapon extended to full length, both ends crackling with energy. Then he deactivated his cloaking field, appearing fully visible before his target. Kael ignited his green lightsaber, heart pounding. The creature before him was massive, armored, and radiating predatory confidence. But the Force whispered that this was a test, not an execution. The Predator wanted to measure him in honest combat. "I don't want to fight you. Kale said, knowing the creature probably couldn't understand. "But I will defend myself." Yautja clicked acknowledgement. Not understanding the words, but recognizing the combat stance, the ready weapon, the warrior's resolve. He thrust forward with his combistic, the attack coming with speed that belied his massive frame. Kyle parried with Jedi reflexes, lightsaber intercepting the spear mid-strike. The weapons locked, energy crackling against alien metal. The Predator's strength was overwhelming. Kale felt himself being pushed backward despite calling on the Force for enhancement. He disengaged and tried a different tactic, using the corridor's confined space to his advantage, making the Predator's size a liability. They fought through 3 ship sections, their combat leaving scorched walls and damaged equipment in its wake. Yautja adapted to the lightsaber's patterns, learning to predict strikes, finding openings in the Jedi defensive forms. Kyle adapted to the Predator's strength, using agility and force-enhanced movement to avoid direct confrontation. Neither could gain decisive advantage. Finally, Boba Fett intervened. He appeared from a side corridor and fired a concussion missile at point-blank range. The explosion threw both combatants apart, stunning them temporarily. Fett aimed his EE-3 carbine at the Predator's damaged biomask. "Enough," he said simply. Yautja assessed his situation through fractured sensors. Combistic damaged, biomask compromised. Force user recovering, armed warrior with advantageous position. Continued combat would likely result in honorable death, but also mission failure. The clan codes allowed for tactical withdrawal when objective completion became unlikely. He activated his recall beacon and threw a device to the floor. Not a self-destruct, but a smoke bomb that filled the corridor with thick vapor. When it cleared, the Predator was gone, moving through the ship's infrastructure toward his extraction point. Kale deactivated his lightsaber, breathing hard. "Did we win?" "We survived," Fett corrected. "Different thing entirely." Throughout the Redemption and the other rebel vessels, similar engagements played out. Some Predators successfully eliminated their targets, taking trophies before escaping. Others were killed by concentrated rebel resistance or Jedi intervention. 2 were captured when Mon Mothma's forces used modified stun nets that overloaded their armor's electrical systems. When the hunting party withdrew to the blood of Setanu, the casualty count was sobering. The rebels had lost 43 personnel, 3 of them Force sensitives. 2 Yautja warriors were dead, 2 captured, and 5 wounded. Both sides had proven their capabilities and their limitations. Dajate studied the aftermath through combat footage transmitted from his hunters. The rebels fought with coordination and adaptability. Their Force users were formidable, but not invincible. Most importantly, they'd captured 2 of his warriors, an unprecedented development that demanded immediate response. In Yautja culture, leaving clan members in enemy hands was unacceptable. They would either be recovered or given honorable death to prevent interrogation. But recovery would require something the Predators had not yet attempted in this galaxy: negotiation. Aboard the Redemption, Mon Mothma stood before the 2 captured Predators, held in reinforced containment cells that barely contained their strength. The creatures raged against their confinement, mandibles clicking, wrist computers attempting to activate destroyed weapons. But they were alive, and alive meant the possibility of understanding. "Can we communicate with them?" she asked the linguistics specialists studying the prisoners. "Their technology contains translation matrices," one analyst reported. "Incredibly sophisticated, designed to decode thousands of languages. If we can interface with their systems, we might be able to establish basic communication." do it. I want to understand what drives these hunters. And more importantly, Mon Mothma looked at the predators with the same analytical mind she used on Imperial strategy. I want to know if they can be reasoned with. Because if the Empire and the Rebellion both face extinction from these hunters, we need to consider something unthinkable. Admiral Akbar understood immediately. An alliance between rebels, Imperials, and whoever else survives, united against a common threat. The Empire would never agree, another officer protested. The Empire doesn't know what's coming, Boba Fett said from the shadows. He'd remained aboard despite technically being an enemy of the Rebellion. I've seen what these predators can do when they hunt seriously. Right now, they're testing us, learning. When they decide this galaxy is worthy of a full-scale hunt, they'll bring clans numbering in the hundreds, maybe thousands. Technology that makes the Death Star look primitive. And they won't stop until every worthy warrior in this galaxy is either dead or has earned their respect through combat. He looked at Mon Mothma directly. You want to survive? You need to make a choice. Unite everyone who can fight, or watch the galaxy become someone else's trophy room. Outside the Redemption, hidden in the asteroid field shadows, Imperial probe droids had observed the entire engagement. They transmitted encrypted data back to Imperial intelligence, where analysts studied the footage with growing alarm. The predators were real. The threat was genuine, and the rebels had captured 2 of them alive. Within hours, the information reached Emperor Palpatine's throne room. The Sith Lord watched the footage with yellow eyes that gleamed with dark calculation. These predators represented both threat and opportunity. A threat to his Empire's absolute control, but also an opportunity to unite the galaxy under Imperial rule by positioning himself as the only force capable of defeating the extragalactic menace. Prepare a task force, Palpatine commanded. Star Destroyers, Inquisitors, and Lord Vader. We will make an example of these hunters, show the galaxy that the Empire protects them from threats beyond their understanding, and retrieve those captured predators, dead or alive. I want their technology. The pieces were moving. The rebels had prisoners. The Empire wanted specimens. The predators wanted their warriors back. And caught between them all were billions of beings who didn't yet understand that their galaxy had become a battleground. The great hunt was escalating beyond anyone's control. The decision to use the captured predators as bargaining chips was made in desperation, not diplomacy. Mon Mothma had spent her life fighting the Empire's tyranny, but she understood strategic reality. If the galaxy faced extinction from these extragalactic hunters, old enemies would need to become temporary allies. The question was whether the Empire could see past its own arrogance long enough to recognize the threat. The answer came faster than expected. 3 Imperial Star Destroyers emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Agumar system, led by the flagship Executor, Darth Vader's personal Superstar Destroyer. The massive vessel dwarfed the Rebel fleet, its weapon systems alone capable of obliterating everything in the asteroid field. But it held position, broadcasting a single message on open channels. This is Lord Vader. The Empire is aware of the extragalactic threat. We are prepared to discuss temporary cessation of hostilities to address the common enemy. Mon Mothma will meet me aboard the Executor for negotiations, or I will recover the captured specimens by force. You have 1 standard hour to decide. The Rebel Command Center erupted in argument. It's a trap. We can't trust Vader. They'll kill us all the moment we're aboard. The objections came from every officer who'd lost friends and family to Imperial atrocities. Boba Fett's voice cut through the chaos. It's not a trap. Vader doesn't bluff. If he wanted you dead, you'd already be fighting. He's offering negotiation because the Empire understands what's at stake. He paused, considering his next words carefully. I've encountered Vader personally. He respects strength and strategic value. Right now, you have something he wants. Prisoners and information about the Predators. Use that leverage. Mon Mothma studied the holographic projection of the Executor, calculating odds and outcomes with a mind that had kept the rebellion alive against impossible circumstances. I'll go. Admiral Akbar, you have command in my absence. If this is a trap and I don't return, continue the fight against both the Empire and these Predators. The rebellion survives through adaptation. I'm going with you, Boba Fett said. It wasn't a request. Vader knows me. Mandalorians have history with both the Predators and the Empire. My presence might complicate his plans enough to keep everyone honest. 30 minutes later, a rebel shuttle departed the Redemption, carrying Mon Mothma, Boba Fett, and 4 rebel honor guards. The journey to the Executor was tense, every moment expecting tractor beams or weapons lock. But the Imperial flagship merely opened its hangar bay and allowed them to land without incident. Vader waited in the conference chamber, a massive room designed to intimidate through sheer scale and the omnipresent sound of his mechanical breathing. He stood at the head of a table where Imperial officers and Inquisitors waited in rigid military formation. When Mon Mothma entered, flanked by her guards and Boba Fett, the temperature seemed to drop. Mon Mothma. Vader's voice resonated through his vocabulator. We meet at last, though I had hoped it would be as prisoner and captor, not as negotiating parties. The galaxy has a talent for unexpected circumstances. Lord Vader. Mon Mothma took her seat without showing fear, a calculated display of strength. I assume you've analyzed the threat these Predators represent? Extensively. Vader gestured, and a holographic display materialized, showing compilation footage from multiple engagement sites. They possess technology superior to both Imperial and Rebel capabilities. They hunt based on perceived challenge rather than political alignment. They have killed over 6,000 Imperial personnel, decimated bounty hunter guilds, and engaged Mandalorian warriors in honorable combat. Most concerningly, they specifically target Force sensitives. He let that information settle before continuing. The Emperor believes these hunters can be studied, their technology reverse-engineered, their tactics analyzed and countered. I believe they represent an extinction-level threat if left unchecked. Our views differ on approach, but we agree on one thing. The captured specimens you possess are valuable intelligence assets. Assets we're willing to share, Mon Mothma said carefully. Under specific conditions. Name them. First, complete immunity for all Rebel personnel involved in studying the Predators. No arrests, no interrogations, no accidental disappearances. Second, full intelligence sharing on both sides. Everything the Empire learns about the Predators, we receive. Everything we discover, you receive. Third, joint military operations against Predator hunting parties, with clear rules of engagement that prevent either side from exploiting the alliance. An Imperial officer gasped at the audacity. You dare make demands of silence. Vader's command froze the officer mid-sentence. The Sith Lord studied Mon Mothma through his mask, and she felt the pressure of his Force presence examining her resolve. After a long moment, he spoke. Your terms are acceptable with modifications. Intelligence sharing will be mutual, but filtered through designated liaisons. I will not compromise Imperial security networks. Joint operations will occur only when absolutely necessary, with clear separation of forces. And immunity extends only to those directly involved in Predator research, not general rebel operations. Agreed, Mon Mothma said, recognizing the compromise for what it was. Both sides maintaining their war while cooperating against the greater threat. Now, shall we discuss what we've learned from the prisoners? The briefing that followed revealed how much both sides had discovered independently. Imperial scientists had recovered Predator technology from multiple sites, identifying advanced metallurgy, biomechanical integration, and energy weapons that operated on principles decades beyond current understanding. They'd also documented the Predators' hunting patterns, their trophy-taking behavior, and their apparent code of honor. The rebels contributed linguistic analysis. Their specialists had partially cracked the Predators' communication systems, identifying that the hunters called themselves Yautja and operated under strict clan hierarchies. The captured Predators refused verbal communication, but their biocomputers contained historical data suggesting they'd hunted in this galaxy before, millennia ago, during an era when Force users were more numerous. They're not random invaders, the rebel linguist explained, displaying translated data fragments. They received a signal, something ancient, possibly from the Old Republic era or earlier, a beacon that advertised this galaxy as a hunting ground. They came expecting worthy prey and found a civilization at war with itself. To them, we're perfect targets. One of the captured Predators, the one designated as Yautja, had begun responding to interrogation through limited computer interface. Not cooperation, but acknowledgement. When asked why the Yautja hunted, the translation system rendered a phrase that chilled everyone present. To prove worth, to earn honor, to separate prey from predator. This is the ancient way. Vader leaned forward. Can they be reasoned with? Negotiated with? Unknown, the linguist admitted. Their culture values strength and honor above all else. Weakness is contempt. Retreat without cause is shame. But they also respect worthy opponents. Those who fight well earn consideration, sometimes survival. The fact that they haven't self-destructed despite capture suggests they're evaluating us as potential equals, or at least interesting specimens. Boba Fett spoke for the first time since the negotiations began. My people's legends say the Predators visited Mandalore centuries ago. They fought our ancient clans in ritual combat. Those who proved themselves were spared. Those who fled or surrendered were hunted to extinction. Eventually, the Predators left. Not because they were defeated, but because they'd found what they came for. Confirmation that Mandalorians were warriors worth remembering. He looked around the table, making eye contact with both rebels and Imperials. These Yautja don't want to conquer us. They want to test us. And if we pass their test, they might leave. But if we fail, if they decide we're not worthy, they'll exterminate every being in this galaxy capable of fighting back, take our skulls as trophies, and move on to the next hunting ground. The implications hung heavy in the room. This wasn't an invasion. It was an audition. And the galaxy's survival depended on proving itself worthy of respect to hunters who measured worth through violence. Then, we need a demonstration, Vader said slowly, his breathing apparatus the only sound in the sudden silence. A show of strength that proves this galaxy's warriors are not prey, not scattered resistance cells or oppressive military forces, but unified combatants capable of matching Yautja prowess. You're suggesting a trap, Mon Mothma realized. Lure their hunting parties into a prepared killing ground. Show them we can not only defend ourselves, but actively hunt them in return. Precisely. The predators respect strength and tactical superiority. We provide both. We choose the battlefield, prepare overwhelming force, and eliminate an entire Yautja hunting expedition with minimal casualties. Then we broadcast the footage across their communication networks. Make them understand that continued aggression will cost them more than any trophies are worth. It was brutal logic, but strategically sound. The predators understood strength. They would respect a decisive victory more than any diplomatic overture. Where? Admiral Akbar's holographic image appeared in the conference. He'd been monitoring from the Redemption. Where do we stage this demonstration? An Inquisitor activated a star chart. Intelligence suggests the predators are using the Rishi Maze as a staging area. It's remote, filled with asteroid fields that mask sensor readings and provides access to multiple trade routes. If we could identify their base of operations. We don't need to find their base, Boba Fett interrupted. We need to make them come to us. Give them a target they can't resist. He looked directly at Vader. You. The predators have marked you as their ultimate trophy. One of their hunters already attempted to kill you and barely escaped with its life. If you appear vulnerable, isolated, with seemingly minimal support, they'll come. They'll bring their best warriors, their most advanced technology, and that's when we hit them with everything we have. The room went silent, suggesting that Darth Vader, the Emperor's enforcer, the most feared being in the galaxy, serve as bait, was either brilliantly strategic or suicidally insane. Vader's breathing filled the silence for 3 mechanical cycles. Then, acceptable, I will serve as the lure. But understand this, when the predators come for me, I will not simply survive. I will demonstrate why the Sith are apex predators in any galaxy. And you will all ensure that my performance is recorded for their entire species to witness. Plans materialized rapidly after that. The location, Mustafar, a volcanic world where Vader maintained a personal fortress. The bait, Vader conducting a routine inspection with minimal escort. The trap, combined Imperial and Rebel forces hidden throughout the system, waiting to spring on any predator hunting party that took the bait. It was an alliance born of necessity, built on mutual fear rather than trust. But it was an alliance nonetheless. The first time in galactic history that the Empire and Rebellion would fight on the same side. The message was sent through the captured predators' communications equipment, modified to broadcast on Yautja frequencies. Darth Vader, Sith Lord, awaits worthy challengers on Mustafar. Come prove your honor, or admit your fear. It was a challenge that no self-respecting Yautja could ignore. Aboard the Blood of Setanu, Huntmaster Dajete received the transmission and felt his mandibles spread in anticipation. The prey had learned to bait the trap. Interesting, either they were desperate or they'd begun to understand Yautja psychology. Either way, the challenge was genuine. The Sith Lord who had humiliated Skardok, the being who commanded the mysterious force, was offering single combat. No Yautja warrior could refuse such an opportunity without bringing shame to their clan. But Dajete hadn't survived hundreds of hunts by being reckless. This invitation was too perfect, too convenient. The prey had learned that Yautja valued honorable combat. Therefore, the prey would use that knowledge as a weapon. It was exactly what Dajete would do when hunting intelligent species. He assembled his most elite warriors, 15 hunters who'd earned their marks through successful hunts on the most dangerous worlds. They would approach Mustafar with full caution, prepared for ambush, ready for treachery. If this was a trap, they would spring it and turn it back on the prey. If it was genuine challenge, they would face the Sith Lord and prove Yautja's superiority. Either way, the hunt was reaching its climax. Soon, the galaxy would understand what it truly meant to be prey. And in the shadows of both fleets, Emperor Palpatine watched through his spies and smiled his cruel smile. Let the rebels and his apprentice think they controlled this alliance. Let them believe they could unite against the extragalactic threat. In the end, when the predators were defeated or driven away, the rebellion would have revealed their bases, their tactics, and their key personnel. Then the true hunt would begin, and the Emperor would ensure that only one predator ruled this galaxy: himself. The pieces were in position. The trap was set, and the greatest battle between hunters this galaxy had ever seen was about to begin on the volcanic hell world of Mustafar. Mustafar burned beneath a red dwarf sun, its surface a hellscape of lava rivers and volcanic eruptions that had witnessed some of the galaxy's darkest moments. Here, Anakin Skywalker had been consumed by fire and reborn as Darth Vader. Here, the Sith Lord maintained a fortress of black stone that rose from molten rock like a monument to suffering. And here, the greatest hunt in Yautja history would reach its brutal climax. Vader stood alone on the fortress's landing platform, his black armor reflecting rivers of lava thousands of feet below. Through the Force, he could sense the approaching presence. Not one predator, but many. At least 15 distinct signatures, each radiating predatory focus and tactical discipline. They were coming as a clan, not individual hunters. They'd recognized the trap and chosen to spring it with overwhelming force. Good. That meant they understood what was at stake. Hidden throughout Mustafar's volcanic landscape, combined Imperial and Rebel forces waited in prepared positions. Star destroyers held position beyond the planet's gravity well, their weapons locked on predetermined firing solutions. Rebel corvettes clung to asteroid fragments, sensor-masked and ready to intercept any escape attempts. On the surface, stormtroopers and rebel commandos occupied defensive positions in caves and reinforced bunkers, equipped with every piece of anti-cloaking technology both factions could provide. This wasn't a hunt anymore. This was war. The Yautja dropships descended through Mustafar's toxic atmosphere like falling meteors, their heat-resistant hulls barely affected by temperatures that would vaporize standard Imperial craft. Huntmaster Yautja led the formation, his biomask scanning the fortress for tactical data. Every sensor screamed warnings, multiple heat signatures in surrounding terrain, energy readings consistent with heavy weapons, atmospheric disturbances suggesting cloaked vessels. The prey had prepared extensively. As expected, Yautja transmitted battle protocols to his hunting party. They would not fight as individual hunters seeking glory. They would operate as a coordinated military unit, utilizing their full technological superiority and combat experience. This wasn't about honorable single combat anymore. This was about proving Yautja dominance against an organized, unified prey species. The dropships landed in a defensive perimeter around the fortress platform. 15 elite predators disembarked, their armor bearing the scars and trophies of countless successful hunts. They moved with synchronized precision, cloaking fields activating, plasma casters charged and ready. Their biomasks linked in a tactical network, sharing sensor data and targeting information. Vader watched them materialize from shimmer into full visibility, choosing to reveal themselves as a show of confidence. They spread into formation, a killing pattern designed to eliminate targets with maximum efficiency. In any other circumstance, it would have been overwhelming force. "You came," Vader's voice carried across the platform, amplified by the Force itself. 15 against 1. I'm almost flattered." Yautja stepped forward, removing his biomask in a gesture of respect before combat. His mandibles clicked in the pattern that translated to, "You are worthy prey. We honor you with the full might of our clan. Today, you join the greatest trophies in Yautja history, or you prove yourself beyond our ability to claim. There is honor in both outcomes." Vader ignited his lightsaber. The crimson blade cast blood-red light across the volcanic landscape. "You should have brought more warriors." The battle began with plasma fire. 15 predators opened fire simultaneously, their plasma casters unleashing superheated bolts from multiple angles. The barrage would have vaporized any normal target instantly. Vader raised his hand, and the Force became a shield. Plasma bolts froze mid-flight, suspended in impossible physics, then redirected back toward their sources with contemptuous ease. 3 predators barely dodged their own reflected fire. One wasn't fast enough. The plasma bolt struck his shoulder, burning through armor and drawing fluorescent green blood. The wounded Yautja roared, but remained in formation, his combat discipline overriding pain. Yautja clicked new commands. The predators shifted tactics instantly, activating cloaking fields and scattering across the platform. They'd learned from previous Force user encounters. Concentrated attacks could be countered, but dispersed strikes from invisible positions created too many threats to address simultaneously. Vader's lightsaber became a blur of crimson motion, deflecting plasma bolts that came from seemingly empty air. But even Sith reflexes had limits. A bolt grazed his shoulder armor. Another struck his leg. The pain was insignificant compared to what he endured daily, but it confirmed what he already knew. Alone, even he could be overwhelmed. Time to end the pretense. "Now," Vader commanded through his comlink. The volcano erupted, not naturally, but through coordinated detonations. The rebels and Imperials had mined the surrounding caldera with thermal explosives, turning Mustafar's own hellish environment into a weapon. Massive plumes of lava erupted skyward, cutting off retreat routes and forcing the cloaked predators into defensive positions. Stormtroopers and rebel soldiers emerged from hidden bunkers, their weapons equipped with thermal scopes and paint-marking rounds that revealed cloaked targets. The predators found themselves caught in crossfire from entrenched positions, their cloaking advantage negated by specialized equipment. A predator attempting to reach his drop ship took concentrated fire from 12 different angles. His armor held against the initial barrage, but sustained fire cracked the plating. He activated his self-destruct sequence, choosing honorable death over capture. The explosion carved a crater in the platform and took 2 stormtroopers with him. But the others pressed the attack with ruthless efficiency. In orbit, the Imperial Star Destroyers opened fire on the Yautja clan ship. The blood of Setanu's shields held against the initial turbolaser barrage, but the rebel corvettes had flanked during the distraction. Ion cannons struck the clan ship's engines, disabling its ability to flee or provide support to the surface team. The great hunting vessel, which had traveled between galaxies and witnessed countless wars, found itself trapped by prey that had learned to coordinate their strengths. On the surface, Yautja realized the full extent of the trap. His hunting party was surrounded, outgunned, and cut off from reinforcement. The prey had studied Yautja tactics, prepared countermeasures, and executed a strategy that turned predator advantages into liabilities. It was magnificent. Exactly what apex predators should do when cornered. But Yautja didn't surrender. Ever. He roared a command that every hunter understood. Fight to the last, take as many prey as possible, die with honor. His warriors responded with clicking affirmation, abandoning defensive tactics for all-out assault. Cloaking fields dropped as they charged directly at their enemies, wrist blades extending, Combistics activated, every weapon firing simultaneously. The platform became a killing ground. A predator crashed into a stormtrooper squad, his strength allowing him to throw armored soldiers like children. His wrist blades carved through plastoid armor, taking 3 kills before concentrated blaster fire brought him down. He died standing, mandibles spread in defiant roar. Another predator targeted the rebel position, his plasma caster systematically eliminating soldiers with perfect accuracy. A rebel commando managed to attach a thermal detonator to the Yautja's back before being killed. The explosion ended both warriors' lives in a flash of fire and honor. Boba Fett engaged a predator in personal combat, his Mandalorian armor and weapons proving evenly matched against Yautja technology. They fought across the platform's edge. Weapons clashing, both warriors recognizing kindred spirits. The Predator's wrist blades met Fett's vibroblade, alien metal against Mandalorian Beskar, in a contest of skill and determination. Neither gave ground, neither asked quarter. When the Predator finally fell, not from Fett's blade but from a rebel sniper's headshot, the bounty hunter nodded respect to the corpse. "You fought well." Vader faced Yautja in combat that transcended normal warfare. The Huntmaster had fought hundreds of battles, killed thousands of beings, claimed trophies from dozens of species. But he'd never encountered anything like the Force. Vader didn't just fight physically. He weaponized the environment itself. Debris became projectiles. The platform's metal floor warped and twisted, creating obstacles and traps. Even the air seemed to obey the Sith Lord's will. Yautja's plasma caster fired continuously, each shot forcing Vader to defend, wearing down even his immense power. The Predator's Combistic struck with lightning speed, exploiting the microsecond gaps between Force defenses. They fought across the entire platform, their battle a deadly dance of technology, biology, and mystical power. "You are strong," Vader acknowledged, his breathing apparatus struggling to process Mustafar's toxic air under combat strain. "Stronger than most beings I've killed. But strength alone is insufficient against the dark side." He unleashed Force lightning, crackling energy that had destroyed Jedi and broken the will of countless enemies. The electricity arced toward Yautja with killing intent. The Huntmaster's armor absorbed the initial strike, its biomechanical systems dispersing the energy through specialized grounding. Yautja technology had encountered energy-based attacks before, across dozens of galaxies. They'd learned to defend against such weapons. But Vader's lightning wasn't technology. It was hatred given form, suffering made manifest. The dark side flowing through a being who'd embraced it completely. The second sustained blast overwhelmed the armor's defenses. Yautja screamed as electricity coursed through his body, circuits frying, biomask shattering, muscles spasming beyond control. He collapsed, smoke rising from his damaged armor, mandibles clicking weakly. Around him, his hunting party lay dead or dying. 15 of the finest Yautja warriors, brought down by coordinated prey who'd learned to fight as one. Vader stood over the Huntmaster, lightsaber raised for the killing strike. "You hunted Force users. You challenged the Sith. Now you understand why your species marked this galaxy as forbidden hunting ground millennia ago. Some prey evolves into predator, and we protect our territory." Yautja's hand moved slowly toward his self-destruct device. If he would die, he would take this Sith Lord with him in atomic fire, denying the prey their trophy. "Don't." Vader's command froze the movement through Force paralysis. "You will live. You will return to your clan ship, carry my message to your people. Tell them this galaxy is under my Emperor's protection. Tell them that further hunts will be met with systematic extermination. Tell them that if they desire honorable combat, they will find it. But on our terms, at times of our choosing. He deactivated his lightsaber and stepped back, releasing the force hold. Or tell them nothing, activate your explosive and die here with your honor intact. The choice is yours, Hunter. But understand, I'm letting you live not from mercy, but because your death serves no purpose. Your species needs to know what hunted you today. Yautja lay broken on the volcanic stone, his pride shattered as completely as his armor. In hundreds of hunts, he'd never imagined this outcome. Not death in combat, which would have been honorable, but defeat followed by dismissal. The Sith Lord was right. The message of this failure carried more weight than any warrior's glorious death. He clicked acceptance and crawled toward his damaged dropship, leaving a trail of fluorescent blood. Behind him, Vader watched until the vessel limped skyward, carrying the sole survivor of what should have been the Yautja's greatest hunt. In orbit, the blood of Setanu had fought desperately against combined Imperial Rebel fleet actions. The clan ship's weapons destroyed 2 corvettes and damaged a star destroyer, but ion cannons had crippled its engines and shields. When Yautja's dropship transmitted surrender codes and requested emergency extraction, the clan ship's captain faced an impossible choice: continue fighting and ensure complete destruction, or retreat and live with unprecedented shame. Survival won. The blood of Setanu activated its emergency jump drive, a one-time device that allowed faster-than-light travel even with damaged systems. The clan ship vanished from Mustafar space in a flash of exotic radiation, leaving behind only debris and the bodies of dead hunters. The combined fleet let them go. The point had been made. On the surface, medical teams worked frantically to save wounded from both sides. Imperial and Rebel personnel worked together out of necessity, saving lives regardless of allegiance. The temporary alliance had held through the battle, but everyone knew it wouldn't last beyond this moment. Mon Mothma and Vader met one final time before departing. They stood on the fortress platform, surrounded by the aftermath of unprecedented cooperation. "The Predators will return," Mon Mothma said. "This defeat will either drive them away permanently or make them more determined. Either way, this alliance ends when they're no longer a threat." "Agreed," Vader replied. "When next we meet, it will be as enemies. But remember this day, Rebel leader. Remember what we accomplished when the galaxy united against a common threat. Perhaps one day you'll understand that the Empire provides that same unity. Order through strength, peace through absolute power. And perhaps one day you'll understand that peace built on fear is no peace at all." Mon Mothma turned to leave, then paused. "But thank you, Lord Vader, for keeping your word, for fighting beside us. History will remember this day, even if it never speaks of it publicly." She departed with her forces, leaving Vader alone on the platform where he'd once burned as Anakin Skywalker. The irony wasn't lost on him. On this world where he'd lost everything, he'd just defended the galaxy alongside those who would destroy the Empire he served. The Force whispered that this wasn't over. The Predators would adapt, return, or perhaps respect the demonstration and seek different hunting grounds. The rebellion would resume its war against Imperial tyranny. The Emperor would continue his dark machinations, and Vader would remain the enforcer of order, the hunter of Jedi, the Sith Lord who'd proven that even extragalactic apex predators had limits. But for one brief moment, the galaxy had united, and that unity had proven unstoppable. In the cold void between galaxies, the blood of Setanu limped toward safe harbor. Huntmaster Yautja sat in the medical bay, his wounds being tended by clan healers who worked in shocked silence. Around him, the surviving crew processed what had occurred. The greatest hunting party in recent Yautja history, defeated by organized prey. The debate that followed would last for years. Some clans argued for overwhelming retaliation. Bring armadas, turn the entire galaxy into a hunting ground. Prove Yautja superiority through absolute dominance. Others counseled respect. The prey had proven themselves worthy through coordination, strategy, and the mysterious force. They'd earned the right to be left alone, at least until Yautja technology advanced enough to counter their advantages. But all agreed on one thing. The galaxy designated as Star Wars, by their prey's own terminology, had demonstrated something rare in the universe. The ability to evolve from scattered prey species into unified predators when threatened. That evolution deserved acknowledgement, if not full respect. The ancient records were updated. This galaxy was now marked as challenging hunting ground, elite warriors only, extreme caution required. Young bloods were forbidden from hunts in this region. Only the most experienced hunters, fully briefed on force user capabilities and technological countermeasures, would be permitted to test themselves against these prey-turned predators. The great hunt wasn't over, but it had entered a new phase, one where both sides understood the other's capabilities, where mutual respect tempered absolute aggression, where the line between predator and prey had blurred into something more complex than simple survival. Yautja looked at his damaged biomask, its cracked lens reflecting his scarred face. He'd lost warriors, lost honor, lost the simple certainty that Yautja were the ultimate hunters in any galaxy. But he'd gained something too. Knowledge that some prey evolved, some battles couldn't be won through strength alone, and some defeats taught more than any victory. He clicked a recording into the clan archives, his testimony for future generations. We hunted the stars and found predators wearing the skins of prey. They defeated us not through superior strength, but through unity we did not anticipate. The lesson is recorded. The hunt continues. But never again will we assume prey cannot become predator. This is the ancient way. Adapt or become extinct. The message would be heard across Yautja civilization, sparking debates and philosophical discussions that would reshape their hunting culture. Some species were worth conquering, others were worth respecting, and a rare few were worth leaving alone. Their existence proof that predators came in forms beyond physical dominance. The Star Wars galaxy had earned that rare distinction. For now, 6 months passed after the Battle of Mustafar, and the galaxy slowly returned to its familiar patterns of conflict. The Empire tightened its grip on core worlds, hunting rebel cells with renewed efficiency. The rebellion struck at Imperial supply lines and inspired hope across oppressed systems. Darth Vader resumed his hunt for Jedi survivors, his reputation now enhanced by the story, half legend, half truth, that he'd single-handedly defeated an army of invisible alien hunters. But those who'd witnessed the truth knew better. The alliance had held, barely, and the threat it had been forged to counter hadn't vanished. It had simply withdrawn to reconsider its approach. On Mandalore, the clans gathered for the first time in decades, united not by conquest, but by shared experience. Chieftain Dharma Fett addressed warriors from a dozen different factions, his armor still bearing scars from the battle on Conquered Dawn. The predators taught us something our ancestors knew, but we'd forgotten, he said, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. We are strongest when we fight as one people, not scattered clans. The Empire fears us when we're united. The rebels respect us when we stand together. And those hunters from beyond the stars? They found us worthy because we fought with coordination and honor. He raised his fist. We've spent too long hiring ourselves out as mercenaries, fighting other people's wars. It's time Mandalore remembered what it means to be a warrior culture. Not servants, not soldiers for hire. Warriors who choose their own battles, protect their own people, and answer to no empire or rebellion. The response was thunderous. Mandalorians who'd fought on opposite sides of the galactic civil war found common ground in the shared combat against an enemy that respected only strength. The Predator incursion had inadvertently unified a people the Empire had spent years trying to suppress. Boba Fett watched from the shadows, his own complicated relationship with Mandalorian culture preventing him from joining the celebration. But he felt something stir in his chest. Pride, perhaps, or recognition that his father's people were finally reclaiming their identity. He activated his ship's engines and departed Mandalore, returning to the life of a solitary hunter. Some things never changed, but he carried with him the memory of fighting beside both Imperials and rebels, of facing an enemy that made all their conflicts seem petty by comparison. And he knew that memory would influence every decision he made going forward. In the Outer Rim, Kanan Jarrus trained Ezra Bridger with renewed urgency. The encounter with the Predator had taught both Jedi that the Force wasn't invincible, that technology and tactics could overcome even mystical abilities if applied with sufficient intelligence and preparation. The Predators didn't fear the Force because they didn't understand it. Kanan explained as they practiced lightsaber forms. They analyzed it, adapted to it, and developed countermeasures. Every enemy you face in the future will do the same. The Empire, bounty hunters, inquisitors, they're all learning how to fight Force users more effectively. So what do we do? Ezra asked, executing a defensive sequence that still showed his inexperience. We adapt faster than they do. We use the Force not as a crutch, but as one tool among many. We learn from every encounter, every mistake, every victory. Kanan paused, remembering the Predator's plasma caster burning through his defenses, the alien strength that had nearly broken his bones. And we never, ever assume we're the apex predator. Because the moment you believe you're untouchable is the moment you become prey. The lesson echoed across the few remaining Jedi in hiding. Word of the Predator encounters spread through encrypted channels, carrying warnings and tactical data. Force sensitives learned to expect enemies who could see through invisibility, counter telekinesis, and match lightsabers with technological equivalents. The mystical advantage the Jedi had always relied upon was no longer absolute. In the Imperial Palace on Coruscant, Emperor Palpatine studied the recovered Predator technology with dark fascination. His scientists had analyzed the biomechanical armor, the plasma weapons, the cloaking devices. Much of it remained beyond current Imperial capabilities. But the concepts were sound. Given time and resources, the Empire could reverse engineer these innovations. The Predators gave us a gift, Palpatine told his inner council. They revealed weaknesses in our military doctrine, exposed vulnerabilities in our security systems, and forced cooperation with the rebellion that provided invaluable intelligence on their capabilities and locations. Now we know where their hidden bases were positioned during the Alliance. We know their command structure, their communication protocols, their tactical preferences. He gestured to a holographic display showing rebel positions identified during the joint operations. Prepare strike forces. The rebels believed our alliance would last as long as the threat remained. But the threat has withdrawn, and alliances built on fear dissolve the moment that fear diminishes. We will use everything we learned to crush the rebellion more efficiently than ever before. Grand Moff Tarkin nodded approval. And the Predator technology, my lord? Integrate what we can. Improve our cloaking systems, enhance our weapons, study their biological augmentation techniques. But do so quietly. I don't want the galaxy to know we're adopting alien technology. Let them believe the Empire's superiority comes from human ingenuity alone. Palpatine's yellow eyes gleamed with dark amusement. And keep monitoring deep space. If the Predators return, I want to know immediately. Next time, we won't ally with the rebellion. We'll capture their clan ships, enslave their warriors, and add them to our arsenal. Darth Vader listened to his master's plans with the mixture of obedience and resentment that defined their relationship. The Emperor saw the Predators as tools to be exploited. Vader saw them as worthy adversaries who challenged him in ways few beings ever had. The Huntmaster's retreat had been strategic, not cowardly. The Yautja would return eventually, better prepared and more dangerous. And when they did, Vader would be ready. Not to serve his master's schemes, but to face them again in honest combat. Because for all his dark side power and imperial authority, some part of Anakin Skywalker still craved the challenge of facing an opponent who fought without fear, without hesitation, without the political complexities that plagued every other conflict in his life. The Predators had been pure. They hunted for honor, not conquest. And in their terrible simplicity, they'd reminded Vader of what he'd lost when he'd chosen power over principle. Aboard the Redemption, Mon Mothma prepared her own response to the post-alliance reality. She'd suspected from the beginning that the Empire would betray their cooperation, and intelligence reports confirmed her fears. Imperial strike forces were mobilizing against rebel positions that had been revealed during joint operations. Evacuate all bases that had Imperial contact, she ordered Admiral Akbar. Assume everything we shared during the Alliance is compromised. Rotate command codes, change communication frequencies, relocate our fleet assets. The Emperor thinks he's outmaneuvered us, but we prepared for this betrayal from day one. What about the Predator threat? Akbar asked. Do we maintain monitoring of deep space? Absolutely. The Yautja may have withdrawn, but they're not gone. And next time they return, if they return, we'll be ready without needing Imperial cooperation. Mon Mothma pulled up tactical data from the Battle of Mustafar, studying the recordings that both sides had made. We learned something important from fighting beside our enemies. When the galaxy faces extinction, old conflicts become irrelevant. That lesson will serve us when we finally defeat the Empire and must govern a unified new republic. She paused, considering the larger implications. The Predators showed us that the galaxy isn't isolated. There are threats beyond our borders, civilizations with technology and philosophies we can't imagine. If we survive this civil war, we'll need to prepare for that reality. Not with fear and militarism like the Empire, but with exploration, diplomacy, and the understanding that we're part of something larger than ourselves. It was a vision that would take decades to realize, but the seeds had been planted. The rebellion fought not just against tyranny, but for a future where the galaxy could unite against external threats without sacrificing freedom and justice. In the deep void between galaxies, the blood of Setanu had reached a Yautja way station, a massive structure that served as gathering point for multiple clan ships. Hunt Master Dajete stood before the Council of Ancients, the eldest and most respected hunters who guided Yautja civilization's direction. He'd presented his testimony, shown the combat footage, and outlined his analysis of what had occurred in the galaxy they'd attempted to hunt. Now he waited for judgment. for condemnation of his failure or acknowledgement of the impossible circumstances he'd faced. The eldest ancient, a scarred veteran whose trophies included skulls from species extinct for millennia, clicked his evaluation. You faced prey that evolved into predators through unity. You adapted tactics, but not philosophy. You hunted individually when the prey fought collectively. The failure was not of skill, but of approach. Another ancient added, "The Force is real. The archives confirm this. Our ancestors encountered it millennia ago and marked that galaxy as forbidden for young bloods. You ignored the warnings, believing modern technology had surpassed ancient limitations. You learned otherwise." Dajjate accepted the criticism with mandibles lowered in respect. The prey earned honor through combat. They demonstrated coordination, strategy, and the willingness to fight beyond normal capacity. They are worthy of being left alone or worthy of being studied further before resuming the hunt. The decision is yours, ancients. The council deliberated for 3 full cycles before reaching consensus. Their judgment was transmitted to all Yautja clan ships across known space. The galaxy designated Star Wars is reclassified as Elite Hunting Ground. Young bloods forbidden. Solo hunts forbidden. Only coordinated clan operations permitted, with full briefing on force capabilities and technological countermeasures. Prey species have demonstrated evolution from scattered individuals to unified predators. Approach with respect and overwhelming preparation, or avoid entirely until advantage shifts. It was neither retreat nor escalation, but acknowledgement of reality. The Yautja had encountered prey they couldn't casually dominate, and their culture valued survival through adaptation over pride through extinction. But the notice included one additional clause that made Dajjate's mandibles click with dark amusement. Special designation, Darth Vader, Sith Lord. Forbidden as trophy target for the next 50 hunting cycles. Only warriors who have claimed 10 elite trophies may attempt this hunt, and only with full clan support. Failure to observe this restriction results in clan dishonor and resource denial. The Sith Lord had earned legendary status among the Yautja, a being so dangerous that hunting him required the highest authorization and preparation. In their culture, such designation was the ultimate compliment. Vader would never know it, but he'd become part of Yautja mythology, a cautionary tale and aspirational goal for future generations. Dajjate was assigned to training duty, teaching young hunters about Force users, showing them footage from his failed hunts, ensuring no other clan made the same mistakes. His failure had become his expertise, his shame transformed into valuable knowledge. It was the Yautja way. Survive, adapt, pass on wisdom. Ensure the species learned from every hunt. As months became years, the predator incursion faded into legend. Those who'd witnessed it told stories that grew more fantastical with each retelling. Invisible aliens, technology beyond comprehension, a battle where enemies became allies and the greatest warrior in the galaxy fought shoulder to shoulder with those who would destroy him. On frontier worlds, children played predators and rebels, reenacting battles they didn't understand against enemies they'd never seen. In cantinas, spacers swapped stories about ships that vanished without trace, about hunters who took only skulls and spines, about the time the Empire and Rebellion worked together to save the galaxy. Most dismissed the stories as propaganda or fantasy, but those who knew the truth remained vigilant. Sensor stations monitored deep space for unusual signatures. Military forces trained for encounters with cloaked enemies. Scientists studied the scraps of alien technology recovered from battlefields, slowly unraveling mysteries that would take generations to fully understand. And in the darkest corners of Imperial intelligence and Rebel command, files remained sealed with the highest security clearances, waiting for the day when the predators would inevitably return. Because warriors like the Yautja never truly abandoned a hunting ground. They merely withdrew to prepare better strategies, to honor their fallen, to plan their return. The question wasn't if they would come back. The question was when and whether the galaxy would be ready the second time. On a remote outer rim world, a signal activated, ancient, automated, broadcasting the same invitation that had drawn the Yautja originally. The beacon had been placed millennia ago by a civilization that wanted to test itself against the ultimate hunters to prove their worth through combat. That civilization was long dead, but their beacon remained, calling out to the void with its eternal message. Come, hunt us, prove your worth against ours. And in the darkness between stars, other clan ships received that signal, began plotting courses, sharpening blades, preparing for the eternal hunt to resume. The Yautja had learned respect for this galaxy's warriors, but respect didn't mean surrender. It meant the next hunt would be even more challenging, more brutal, more definitive. The great game between predator and prey would continue, as it had across countless galaxies and countless ages, because that was the ancient way. The eternal test of which species deserved to survive, which deserved to rule, and which deserved to be remembered only as trophies in a hunter's collection. The Star Wars galaxy had earned a reprieve. They'd proven themselves worthy of caution, if not fear. They'd united against impossible odds and emerged bloodied but unbroken. But the hunt was never truly over. It merely paused between rounds, gathering strength, learning lessons, preparing for the inevitable moment when predators and prey would clash again. And when that day came, the galaxy would discover whether their unity had been temporary desperation or the beginning of something greater. A civilization that could stand against any threat, from within or beyond their borders, united not by fear, but by the shared understanding that survival demanded cooperation, respect, and the willingness to fight for something larger than individual glory. The Force would guide some. Technology would shield others. And together, they would face whatever came from the stars. Because that was the lesson the predators had unwittingly taught. In a universe of hunters, only those who learned to hunt together would survive the ultimate test. The Predator invasion changed the Star Wars galaxy in ways both visible and hidden. Mandalorian clans reunited under a banner of shared warrior culture, their strength renewed by facing enemies who respected honor above politics. The few surviving Jedi learned that the Force, while powerful, wasn't invincible against intelligent adaptation and superior technology. And the great powers, Empire and Rebellion alike, discovered that their endless war paled in comparison to threats that lurked beyond known space. In cantinas across 1,000 worlds, the stories persisted. Tales of invisible hunters who took only the strong, who fought with honor even as they killed without mercy, who reminded the galaxy that apex predators came in forms beyond Imperial Star Destroyers or rebel heroism. The Yautja had departed, but their mark remained, in tactical doctrines revised to counter cloaking technology, in alliances forged from necessity, in the understanding that the galaxy was neither the center of the universe nor safe from forces beyond its borders. Darth Vader stood alone in his meditation chamber, studying a piece of alien armor he'd recovered from the Mustafar battlefield. The biomechanical construction spoke to engineering principles decades beyond current Imperial technology. The trophies embedded in its surface told stories of hunts across species the galaxy had never encountered. And the fluorescent blood that still stained its edges reminded him that even the most dangerous predators could bleed. The predators would return. He was certain of it. Warriors like that never abandoned a challenge. They regrouped, adapted, and came back stronger. When they did, the temporary alliance that had defeated them wouldn't exist. The Empire and Rebellion would be fighting each other, vulnerable and divided, unless someone prepared for that inevitability, unless someone remained vigilant while others forgot. Vader placed the armor fragment in a secured vault alongside other relics of his past. His lightsaber from before the dark side, pieces of Jedi holocrons, reminders of battles that had shaped him. The Yautja had joined that collection, proof that power came in forms beyond the Force, that humility served survival better than arrogance. And deep in the Sith Lord's mechanical heart, something that might have once been Anakin Skywalker recognized a truth he'd spent decades denying. Some threats could only be defeated by standing together, by setting aside pride and politics for a greater cause. It was a lesson he wouldn't share with his master, but it was one he wouldn't forget. The galaxy spun through space, oblivious to the forces that watched from beyond its borders. The Yautja prepared in the darkness, learning from their failures, planning their return. Other civilizations lurked in the void, some benevolent, others malevolent, all awaiting their moment to either aid or exploit the fractured galaxy. And in the center of it all, beings who thought themselves the pinnacle of evolution continued their petty wars, unaware that they'd barely survived their first true test against the infinite universe. The hunt would continue, the prey would evolve, and eventually, predator and prey would meet again to determine which deserved to inherit the stars. But for now, in this moment of hard-won peace, the galaxy breathed, rebuilt, remembered, and prepared for whatever came next from the endless dark between the stars, where hunters eternal waited with infinite patience for the next worthy challenge. The legend was born, the warnings were recorded, and the message was clear to any who would listen. In a universe of predators, only unity made you truly dangerous. Only respect made you truly strong. And only vigilance made you truly safe. The Yautja had taught that lesson in blood and fire. Whether the galaxy learned it in time would determine if they became legends themselves, or merely another trophy in an alien hunter's collection.